All sports, all the time.
There's heroes and there's legends. Heroes get remembered. Legends never die.
This is the Spoken Podcast.
Hold your ears, folks. It's showtime.
I'm your host, Lance Twidwell.
Man, that kid, he can ball, man. He can ball.
Touchdown, Kansas City!
Patrick freaking Mahomes, baby!
Let's talk some sports, because that's what we're here to do.
You are tuned in to The Spoken.
This is the Spoken Podcast. I am your host, Lance Twidwell, here inside the Starcade Media Studios with my guy, Trevor Twidwell.
What's good?
Episode 222, that is correct. 222nd episode of the Spoken Podcast is here in full swing, full motion. We're so happy to be here with you and for you to be here with us, whether you are live streaming, whether you are podcasting, or whether you are YouTubing. We want to thank you so much for taking the time to be with us in this time as we have a very fun-filled show. I don't even know if it's jam-packed yet. Trevor and I always find a way to give you guys as much content as we possibly can every single week. We know this is the dog days of summer when it comes to sports talk because we know that for the majority of the fans, the viewing audience out there, your favorite sports are kind of on a hiatus right now. We know the NFL is not going in. There's nothing really going on right now. Very few free agent moves. There's not a lot of trades going on. There's no football going on for sure, so we know that's in a dead spin right now. But we know that before we know it, we're going to be right back in the NFL season, so we're going to keep this bad boy rolling because we know that you guys have a ton to talk about when it comes to the NFL, the NBA, UFC. We know we got some fights going on right now as we're doing this live stream, and we'll have some fights after our live stream is over tonight. So there's still plenty to talk about. And we know that you guys still have plenty to talk about. So if you've not already done it, man, let's get right to the point here. Let's go to our YouTube channel at The Spoken Podcast, hit subscribe, and then join our chat. You guys can comment as much as you like, give us whatever you like, whatever you guys want to talk about, takes, thoughts, questions, concerns, anything about anything. Let us know in the chat what you guys want to talk about. Hit the subscribe, like I said, and join the community right here, right now, because we have no time to waste because we're here right now, live. And we will talk to you guys throughout the week, even when we're not live, but it's always more fun when we can talk to you guys directly on the show while Trevor and I are on here with our beautiful faces, letting you guys know what we're thinking. We want to hear what you guys are thinking as well. But for those that have already been joining us, that have already been a part of this thing, that already know the routine, we want to thank you so much for being here with us yet again, guys, on another show that we want to give you guys our thoughts, our viewpoints as we reciprocate with you as well. Let's jump right into something that I think that we need to address from the top, and then we're gonna, like I said, we're gonna go down the rigmarole, if you will, of what we got to talk about because we're gonna hand out some L's at the end of the show. Like I said, we're gonna get to you guys with Speak It. That's a segment that we've dedicated to you guys. So pile it in now. Trevor's gonna monitor that, and then we're gonna get going with you guys, your guys' comments. But today, we must begin where we began last week. Only a little bit further to the northeast. From Ohio to New York, two cities and two teams that are doing what they can to ensure a decade-plus dynasty for Kansas City. You heard that correctly. Today I want to explain why I am not only thankful for Jamar Chase and the Cincinnati Bengals, but I am thankful for the Buffalo Bills. On Friday morning, we got the news that the Bills are giving contract extensions to both GM Brandon Beane and head coach Sean McDermott through 2027. This was easily the best news that the Chiefs and Chiefs fans could have gotten this offseason, and I'm going to explain why. And even though it's still very confusing from the Bills side of things, it has to be from the Bills side of things and Bills fan side of things to do this, seeing that the GM and head coach tandem was already under contract for the next 3 seasons. They had a contract all the way through 2025. But I guess we should have seen this coming. Because the Bills have been a poverty franchise for decades now, and the Bills are finally a good enough team to lose in the playoffs again for the first time in decades. So, of course, they're extending the GM and head coach for the next 5 seasons. But is that good enough for their fan base? Or are Bills fans going to finally go the way of the Chiefs fans and reject the mediocrity and demand the franchise to reach for higher goals than just being a 10-plus win team that's good enough to get into the playoffs and never do anything in the playoffs? Because if they are, Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott cannot be the ones leading the way. Why do I say that? Well, the Bills are 4-5 in the playoffs under Beane and McDermott. 4-5. 3 of those 4 wins have come against 40-year-old Phillip Rivers in the first year with the Colts, in his only year with the Colts because he retired right after that game. Rookie Mac Jones, who has never been a good quarterback, but he was also a rookie. And something called Skylar Thompson. All 5 losses have come against Blake Bortles, LOL, Deshaun Watson, Patrick Mahomes again, and then Joe Burrow. Josh Allen was drafted in 2018 and didn't lead the Bills to the playoffs until 2019, so with Allen, they're 3-4 in the playoffs. Beating a quarterback who retired after the game, a rookie Mac Jones who's been benched for Bailey Zappi a number of times, and something called Skylar Thompson. Those are the 3 wins that Josh Allen has in his postseason career. Outside of beating Lamar Jackson, 3 of his 4, because outside of beating Lamar Jackson in the 2020 divisional round, who has been horrendous in his postseason regardless of who they played, every time Josh Allen's Bills have faced a top-tier quarterback, they've lost. And it had a lot to do with coaching. It has been confirmed now by multiple reports this offseason that Sean McDermott took over defensive play calling in the 2021 divisional round versus the Chiefs with 13 seconds remaining. He literally told Leslie Frazier, I got this. 13 seconds remaining. I'm going to finish this game off. And despite Josh Allen playing at an historic level in that game, literally, I've said, Trevor, and we just talked about it before the show, any other quarterback Josh Allen faces in that game, the way Josh Allen played, he beats them. Mm-hmm. Only Patrick Mahomes beats Josh Allen in that game. Despite how great Josh Allen was in that game, the Bills still found a way to lose. Then there's the 2022 divisional round versus the Bengals when the snow had a better chance of stopping Burrow than the Bills defense did, getting absolutely embarrassed 27-10 at home. In a game when you had Damar Hamlin in the crowd, lifting his hands, everybody's freaking out, lifting, the spirits are lifted. You just had a close nail-biting victory against divisional foe Miami Dolphins, again, against something called Skylar Thompson, not Tua Tagovailoa, Skylar Thompson. You squeaked out a 3-point victory in overtime. You should have been ready for the Bengals. The Bengals had a depleted offensive line. Even without Von Miller, you should have dominated the Bengals offense. And Sean McDermott and his defense did the opposite. Was Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs and all them not on the same page? Did their offense look lost? Yeah, they put up 10 points. But that game from the get-go, the Bengals looked like they could do whatever they wanted, whenever they wanted on offense. And it was a round earlier than where they lost the year before. This team can win a ton of regular season games. Bills fans can finally have a good team to root for. That's all true. And the franchise just showed those same fans that being relevant matters to them far more than being good enough to beat the Chiefs and Bengals in the playoffs and get to the Super Bowl for the first time in almost 30 years. Trev, I'm here today, and I know this is something we don't do here because I set that rule a long time ago that we don't make NFL predictions until September when we do our official prediction show every year.
Don't do it.
I'm going to break my rule today. I'm breaking my own damn rule, Trevor. That makes me a hypocrite, and I'm okay with that today because I'm very confident in this prediction that I'm making. I am making an official 2023 NFL prediction. The Buffalo Bills will not win the Super Bowl. Not just this season, Trevor. This isn't a 2023 prediction alone. The Buffalo Bills will never win a Super Bowl with Sean McDermott and Josh Allen as their head coach quarterback duo. It will never happen. Why? NFL history. No team in NFL history has ever started the same quarterback under the same head coach for more than 5 seasons and win their first Super Bowl after the 5th season. It's never happened. 2023 will be Sean McDermott and Josh Allen's 6th season together. Think about all the best head coach quarterback duos throughout history that never won a Super Bowl together. Don Coryell and Dan Fouts, Bud Grant and Fran Tarkenton, Don Shula and Dan Marino, Andy Reid and Donovan McNabb, Marv Levy and Jim Kelly. Pretty sure they were with the Bills. Hell, McDermott and Allen, when you think about Marv Levy and Jim Kelly, McDermott and Allen aren't even the best head coach quarterback duo in their own franchise's history. Josh Allen might be a better quarterback than Jim Kelly, but Marv Levy's a better head coach than Sean McDermott. So you can't say it would be definitive that Sean McDermott and Josh Allen are the better duo, because I don't believe that. Because that duo, previously, Marv Levy and Jim Kelly, went to 4 straight Super Bowls. The McDermott-Allen duo has yet to even see the Super Bowl. So unless you or anyone else that's watching and listening to this can tell me that Sean McDermott and Josh Allen strike you as an historic duo that can and will be the first duo in NFL history to win their first Super Bowl together after that 5th season together, I'm going to confidently go with history on this one and say their best days and their best chances, their only chances to win a Super Bowl together, have already passed them by. Trevor, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, and I think that's not a safe bet, but I do think it is a decent bet because of the fact that this is the Mahomes era, the Mahomes Andy Reid era, and you also have the Bengals. You have the Jacksonville Jaguars that are coming as well. I think the Bills' best chances were these last 2-3 seasons. That was their best window. I don't see them getting better. And I do like McDermott as a coach, but as a head coach, he's definitely suspect, and especially with all the news coming out about this past season and the season before that, about the internal turmoils and beef between him and his defensive coordinator. Yeah, man. I mean, I'm not predicting that, but I don't disagree. I wouldn't put money on them. I would expect, the Bengals to have a better chance, better odds. I would expect the Eagles to have better odds. I would expect the Jacksonville Jaguars almost at this point, with their trajectory, the way they're looking, what they're building over there, with their weapons and their young roster defensively and offensively. And they have more depth, I think, at this point, man, it seems. So, and then they got the Stephon Diggs drama. There's a lot of things, man, that seem to be crumbling, and Stephon Diggs isn't getting any younger either. And, listen, if they do end up winning one, I don't think I'll be that surprised because, I mean, they're extremely talented. But it starts from the top. It is the leadership. There's just already drama because of their shortcomings, because of them not being able to finish the job. And like I said, this is the Mahomes era. This is the run that we're going on. This is our time. We still got to be beat in the biggest moments, and they've yet to do that. The Bengals have done it. The Bengals knocked us out of the playoffs already at one point. They've proven they can do that. They have the internal fortitude to do such a thing to the Chiefs and dethrone Patrick Mahomes for a season. Yeah. Burrow and the Bengals have done it, and they have a bright young coach over there as well. You know what I mean? And so. Yeah, man. I mean, it's not like it's the Chiefs and Bills, racing. We got Miami, and I think they're a quarterback away from being a true contender as well. I don't believe in Tua, but I think if they figure out that quarterback situation in the next couple seasons, Tyreek's still young enough to be a number one. Jalen Waddle, there's a lot of talent in the AFC. You know what I mean? So it's not a 2-team race anymore. For about a season or two, it seemed that way. It was the Bills and Chiefs. But now with the Bengals obviously going to the Super Bowl a couple years ago, and I think a couple of these younger teams are on the rise, and you can't count out the Ravens either. Lamar Jackson's still Lamar Jackson. They just got better this offseason as well. So their window, I think, is barely open at this time. So I think long-term wise, yeah. Do I see them winning a Super Bowl? No, I don't. I agree with you on that. I don't see them winning Super Bowl. Could they make one? Sure. Things can break their way. Injuries could happen to other teams, and luck could happen. They're talented enough to go out and straight up beat someone. I'm not going to act like they're not. But the leadership is definitely suspect at this point, and they just extended that suspect leadership. So, yeah, man, I tend to agree with you. And
doesn't it seem like, again, from the top of my take with this, that them extending guys that didn't need extensions tells you that they're looking just for the safety of it all. We're good enough. We've finally gotten back to prominence in our eyes, what prominence is, because the Bills are looking to continue to fill seats, which Bills Mafia, let's be real, man, they love their team. They're going to be dedicated to their team.
They're showing up regardless.
They remind me a lot of the Chiefs fans, Browns fans, teams like that have been through a lot of turmoil and heartbreak but continue to fill the seats.
Yeah.
for me, if I'm a Bills fan, I don't like this move. And I don't want to speak for Bills Mafia because I know there's a lot of fans out there that probably love Sean McDermott. They probably love Brandon Beane and some of the decisions they've made. But I have to imagine there is at least a cluster of Bills Mafia that's out there going, why would we extend these guys when we've had our best opportunities have fallen short because of some of the decisions that Sean McDermott has made? Because, again, Leslie Frazier is a defensive guru with defensive coordinator had an commitment in McDermott that he would call plays, and Sean McDermott takes that from him in the middle of a game that you were winning with 13 seconds left that would get you to an AFC championship that you probably would win against that Bengals team, against that Bengals team, because at that time, man, that 2021 Bills team was nuts. They had every capability of going to the Super Bowl that year.
Yep.
And Sean McDermott takes that from a guy he entrusted in that moment, and it ends up backfiring to the point.
What got him there?
Yeah, it literally got the Chiefs the victory. I mean, it literally did.
Yeah.
I mean, it could not have been two easier plays for the Chiefs to get Harrison Butker in field goal position. That's a horrific look on the guy that took the play calling away, and that's why ultimately Leslie Frazier has walked away. Now, Bills fans I've seen and heard, they've had differing opinions on Leslie Frazier, but again, he had a job. And that job was taken from him, so he walked away. Mm-hmm. Now, do you feel confident in Sean McDermott's leadership on the defensive side with a quarterback who has had as much pressure on him now as he's ever had? You don't have that backing because Ken Dorsey's not what Brian Dable was. And again, when you have success like a Bills team where you're winning 10, 12, 13, 14 games a year, your offensive coordinator is going to get more job opportunities. So let's say the Bills this year shock me and get to a Super Bowl, right?
Yep.
Ken Dorsey all of a sudden's in line for a head coaching job, which means you're going to have to take another offensive coordinator, which means you're going to have to fix things again on the offensive side. That's why teams like the Chiefs and Bengals have so many advantages over teams like the Bills, who have offensive-minded head coaches that are leading the way, that even when you lose an Eric Bieniemy, even when you lose an offensive coordinator for the Bengals, you still have Zach Taylor. You still have Andy Reid. They're going to establish and have a foundation of their offense. They know what they're going to be doing each and every year. Patrick Mahomes is going to come into an offseason going, all right, why are we changing this shit up? Oh, yeah, that's right. Eric Bieniemy's gone, and I have a defensive-minded head coach. That's what Josh Allen has to take on. And not only that, they have this turmoil, this budding turmoil between him and Stephon Diggs that no one can try to diminish or take away. That's a real problem that's going down.
There. Yeah.
And then you have on the defensive side, which we all know Sean McDermott loves to build his team through, you have Von Miller. When is he going to play? And when he does, how do we know Von Miller's going to be close to what he once was? He's going to be 34 years old this year, and this is his second severe knee injury. Like, to me, they have so many questions going into this, and I felt like this would have been the opportunity for the Bills to sit back and say, all right, let's see what these small amount of picks that we have this year. Let's see what Brandon Beane did with those guys. Let's see if he can reconstruct that defense and give Josh Allen a little bit more help on the offensive side, because they did draft Dalton Kincaid. Maybe he turns into something.
Sure.
But maybe he doesn't. And then if he doesn't, you can get out of the Brandon Beane business. You can say, look, you gave us these 6-7 great seasons. We did what we could. We maximized it. We fell short. We need to move forward and get some fresh set of eyes on this roster because Josh Allen's in his prime. We don't want to waste that. And then John McDermott, same contract. Okay, look, dude, you've helped turn this franchise around. Josh Allen's turned into a budding superstar. Your defenses have been elite a lot of times throughout these last 7 years, but we've fallen short. Your contract's up in 2025. We're going to go ahead and do a buyout and get you out of here a year or two ahead. No, what they did is they dug their feet even further in. And so for Chiefs fans, for the Chiefs, we have to be happy about this because of the fact that this is showing us the Bills are not focused on finding ways to beat the Chiefs, because even though they've said over the last couple of years we're obsessed with finding ways to beat the Chiefs in the postseason, we now know that they're not serious about that. They might want it, sure. Josh Allen would love nothing more than to finally beat Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. He would love nothing more than beat Joe Burrow in the playoffs. Yep. But he's 0-3 against those two guys in the playoffs. That's a real problem because, like you said earlier, Trevor, those are the two Titans you're going up against. And for me, when you have a franchise that is dedicated or that is investing into mediocrity at the GM and head coaching position, I hate to say it because I like Sean McDermott. He's an understudy of Andy Reid, but there's a reason why Andy Reid once fired him. Mm-hmm. There's a reason. Because this guy can do better. And if any Bills fans being honest out there right now, they know that they could get better out of their head coaching position. And if they were being honest, if they had the choice of keep Sean McDermott and a defensive-minded head coach, or go and get Sean McVay, or go and get a Kyle Shanahan, or go get an Andy Reid, or don't even take it that level. Just get Zach Taylor. If they had the choice right now, Bills fans, you have the choice between Sean McDermott or Zach Taylor right now. Who are you taking? I guarantee you in the core of them, they're going to be like, oh, I want Zach Taylor. Because you know that only elevates your team to the next level. It elevates Josh Allen to the next level because that's the kind of coach that can get him to stop running into tackles, running into sacks. He can start throwing the ball more from the pocket, keep extending his shelf life. But that's not happening because they don't have that guy in Buffalo. And now you're losing coaches. And now you're losing players' mindsets. And they're not focused on football anymore. It's turmoil between them. The fact that they reinvested into this culture, into this regime, tells me that this team is almost, I hate to say it this way because maybe it'll bite me in the butt. I don't think it's going to. It's almost like they've bought into the fact that they're just not going to beat the Chiefs during the Mahomes era. That's how it looks to me, Trevor. I mean, is that how it feels? Do you feel that way, or do you think that they think that deep down this is the best way, the best chance they could beat Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs moving forward?
Well, I mean, I would imagine from the Bills' perspective, they think this is the right move, or else they wouldn't have done it. I think this is a move that you said, like, it's comfortable, it's a familiar voice, it's what's got them here so far, and they must believe, that this is still the crew that can get them over the top, and they have a lot of faith in Von Miller coming back and being a contributor, which whenever he's healthy and on the field, he 100% is. But when is he going to play? They've talked about him being ready for the beginning of the season. I don't think that seems very likely. This honestly really just comes down, I think, to Josh Allen though, because we've seen him. He was great in some of these games, but there's too many times where he kind of makes boneheaded mistakes down the stretch in some games as well. Obviously, it comes down to the head coaching as well, but I think a lot of this pressure comes down to the relationship between Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen, because that's what keeps this team alive. This team thrives off of their offensive prowess and their big explosive ability, and if they're not beating people over the top consistently or scoring consistent points, I mean they've shown to falter, right? And even in that game against Miami this past season when they were down in Miami and that game came down to the wire and they made a couple mistakes down the stretch of that last drive that cost them the game and time ran out. Leadership like that is what makes me feel grateful to have my quarterback who I have right now. I think it's a number of things. I don't think it's just the head coach. Obviously, that's probably the biggest issue right now. But as far as your question, man, I think they believe that this is the team that's going to get them to the promised land, because they've sniffed it. They've been close. They've got a little taste of some playoff success, but they can't beat the teams that are, that they're chasing.
Right.
They're going to continue to chase until they think they can catch us or beat us. But this entire coaching staff and roster has yet to do so. You know what I mean? So I don't know, man. I mean, if I'm a Bills fan, I'm sure Bills Mafia is probably split on this decision. I'm sure there's a lot of Bills fans that want to see McDermott, move on from McDermott, move on from the leadership that's calling the shots right now, and get more of an offensive-minded guy, because that's kind of the wave of the success of the NFL teams that are on the top right now. But yeah, man, I'm sure there's a sect of fans that are okay with this too and want to move forward and keep this machine going and what's got him here, what's got him here so far. I'm sure they have all the love and faith in Josh Allen to be that guy still, and he's still extremely talented. But man,
I think the franchise is
they're being
afraid.
surpassed.
I think the franchise is afraid because they see the Jets right now with Aaron Rodgers coming. They see the Dolphins, if a healthy Tua Tagovailoa is there, they're a playoff team because they clearly were with Tua playing half this season. Mm-hmm. And the Patriots, although I don't think they're a team right now that you have to be afraid of, it's always the fact that Bill Belichick can dial up these really good defenses. They can be a frustrating team that can ruin a season for you, maybe upset you in a big game that can help you win the division or get the 1 seed. They're that type of team right now. They look like a spoiler because that team's going to be well-disciplined and you know that Belichick's very organized with how he does things, whether you agree with personnel decisions or not. I think that this team's afraid. I think the Bills are working out of fear because they're afraid of falling far down into the division. I think if they keep things together, they're going to convince themselves that things can be – they have a good foundation. They'll win 10 to 12 games a year as constructed. But to your point, Trevor, look at Tom Brady, a guy that never settled. He was always going for Super Bowls every single – for like the last 13, 14 years of his career. Everything was about winning Super Bowls every single season. He always – that was his obsession. Right? When Tom Brady finally had enough, like I brought this up a couple weeks ago, I think. When was he done? Well, the Patriots were pushing him out the door, and we know that they wanted to move forward. True, but we also know that Tom Brady was getting frustrated with the fact of the way Belichick was running his rosters, building his rosters. He wasn't giving him playmakers. He couldn't draft wide receivers well. Gronk was gone. Randy Moss was gone. Like, all his number one weapons were gone. Edelman was retired. You know, like, he was getting sick of that. Is it any coincidence to you that Tom Brady not only went to the NFC, which is the easiest conference, not only went to the easiest division in the NFC, in the NFC South, but went to the team that not only had a loaded roster skill position-wise and wide receiver-wise and got Gronk back, but went to a head coach that was what? An offensive-minded head coach in Bruce Arians who had a proven track record in this league. Mm-hmm. Like, that to me tells you everything you need to know. And if the Bills were a bold franchise, they would say, look, Sean, you're getting 2023. If you don't get to the Super Bowl, man, we're moving on. We're going to buy you out. We're gonna move on. We're gonna go get the next big time offensive coordinator. We see this all the time, and we're gonna see if this guy can be our head coach. See what he can do with Josh Allen. See if he can protect Josh Allen a little bit more, and what our franchise can be with more of an offensive minded head coach. Because again, when the most successful quarterback of all time decides to pack up and say, I don't want to be here anymore. I know it was a mutual understanding, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He moved forward and went to a coach that had was driven by offense, and it worked for Tom Brady. It was successful for Tom Brady to do that. He was able to play his best football in his mid-40s. And I think that having Bruce Arians, having Byron Leftwich, having Mike Evans, having Chris Godwin, having Gronk, having Leonard Fournette, having these weapons is what saved his career and extended his career. Sure. If they want to do the same in Buffalo for Josh Allen, they got to have the same mentality. Let's go get that next offense coordinator. Let's go get a proven guy. Let's go find our Doug Peterson, and let's get the most we can out of Josh Allen. Because to your point, Trevor, if this team can only win off of Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs, wouldn't you want to have a coach that's going to get the most out of them? Because I don't believe Sean McDermott's that guy. And not having Brian Dable anymore, who was basically a head coach on the offensive side, not having him there anymore. You saw the change. Yeah, Josh Allen had a good season statistically, but you saw how many times they struggled throughout the year.
Well, yeah, and I think they were supposed to be a defensive team. That's why McDermott was a good fit there for a little bit in the early stages, because they were supposed to be, a defensive-minded team, and they were. They were one of the best, if not the best, defense at times throughout the past few seasons. So, but I think that shift is happening. I think that they're becoming more of a one-dimensional team. Their defense is up and down. They've lost some pieces, and they've lost some more pieces this offseason, and their number one guy is questionable to start the season. Von Miller, we don't know what's going to – they've spent they gave him a healthy contract there. So I don't know what's going to play out with that. But, I mean, if that defense isn't saving some of these games and showing up big for them, that secondary has lost some pieces. So who knows what this team's going to look like. And if it really comes down to Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs having to shoulder the weight of the burden of this team to win games, we don't really know what that looks like yet. You know what I mean? Like, because this defense has been stout since he's been here for the most part. And especially in the first couple seasons, Josh Allen depended on that defense a lot. But I think it's starting to transition to where they're more of an offensive team, and you got a defensive-minded coach. You know what I mean? That's already proven to blow games when you have it in the palm of your hands. So, yeah, man, a lot of question marks for Bills Mafia. I feel for them. We've been there. Similar situations where we've had massive letdowns. But yeah, man, I'm really curious to see how this plays out for them because of the extension. How long was the extension though for McDermott?
Well,
5.
So their contract. So McDermott and Bean were on the same contract.
Right.
They had an extension through 2025 already, or their contract was through 2025 already. Same as Andy Reid's, right, and Brett Veach.
Gotcha.
They extended him 2 more years, and that's the part that doesn't make sense. It's like if I'm a Bills fan, I'm like, you already had them on contract for 3 more years as it stands. Like, why would – so basically what they're saying is until Josh is 31, 32 years old, McDermott's going to be his head coach?
Yeah.
Like, if you had to forecast it right now and say, for the next 5 years, what do we have a better chance of winning a Super Bowl with? A defensive-minded head coach or going and getting a fresh set of eyes and going and getting an OC, a top-tier OC, and going and having him as their head coach for Josh Allen? I would have to go with door number 2 because I've already seen 5 years of Josh Allen and Josh McDermott, and it wasn't good enough. And that was when they had their best chance.
Well, do you think this decision was made? I mean, this decision had to have been made with Josh Allen's blessing.
I would imagine so, yeah. But with the turmoil we've already been seeing, who's to say these guys are on the same page? You know what I mean? Like, we now know that Stephon Diggs has had problems with coaching and with Josh Allen. So we can't sit here and say and give Josh Allen the benefit of the doubt. He's very diplomatic. The man knows how to talk. Man knows how to make it sound like everything's good. I fucking love Josh. I fucking love Stephon Diggs.
Yeah.
Sean McDermott's a great coach. He says all the right things, but is it actually the truth? So I have to take everything that franchise as a whole is saying with a grain of salt because, first of all, I don't even think they know what they're doing. I think they obviously lucked out by getting a Josh Allen who ended up becoming a very, very prolific player out of Wyoming, which is never, ever happens. But he was good enough. He ended up becoming a great top 5 quarterback in this league. My point, though, is that every era has a window of opportunity. Some are longer, some are shorter. Look at the Patriots, 20 years. Look at the Chiefs right now, 10-plus years, and it's going to continue to go because they have the best quarterback and best head coach in place. But with teams like the Bills, when you have a superstar-style quarterback and a good head coach, but it's on the opposite side, how long is that window really going to stay open? And especially to your point, Trevor, about how the AFC continues to get better. Last year, people were talking about the Chiefs missing the playoffs because how good the AFC was. The AFC West in particular was, right? Yep. Chiefs ended up winning the Super Bowl. So now the AFC's gotten even better because you added another top 10 quarterback in Aaron Rodgers. Lamar Jackson's healthy. Tua Tagovailoa is healthy. The Bengals have gotten better. Like, all these teams are going to get progressively better. So Trevor Lawrence, everyone's expecting him to take another step up. The Jaguars as a whole to take another step up. So the AFC is only getting progressively better. So with the Bills being the way they are, built the way they are, is this good enough for the new modified version of the AFC? Because to your point, Trevor, just 2 years ago, it's amazing how quickly things change and how quickly teams catch up with you. Because remember we talked about how the league's caught up with Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs in 2021, which was somewhat true. They adjusted to them. How much more so for a team like the Bills, who have never gotten to that place that the Chiefs have gotten to multiple times over the last 4 years, how much more so has the rest of the AFC caught up to them? Because of the fact that we saw how the Bengals literally picked them apart in that divisional game in Buffalo in the horrific weather. How much more so? People could say, well, the Damar Hamlin thing was weighing heavy on them, things of that nature. I will buy that for the Dolphins game. I'll buy that because they had a playoff game before that. There was a lot of pressure. You could tell the Bills, there was something going on. Josh Allen was all over the place. I'll buy that for that one game. I think if they replayed that game without the Damar Hamlin thing, Bills probably win that game by double digits, as they should have.
They should have won the game.
They should have ran away with
that
it.
time anyway.
But if I'm not mistaken, the Dolphins had a fourth quarter lead. Yeah. So, I'll give them that. The hearts were heavy. There was a lot going on. But against the Bengals, man, there's no reason in the world that game went the way they did. And I picked the Bengals. Don't get me wrong. I was very confident. Trevor, you picked the Bengals. We felt confident with them winning the game. I didn't think, though, it was going to be 27-10. And again, because the advantages should have been on the Bills' side of things. So you go into another season with even more pressure, and now history is completely against you because last year was that final year where you could say, hey, listen, within history's structure, we could still win a Super Bowl with this tandem in place. I know people want to say that it's somebody tweeted me yesterday, said that history is it's not prescriptive, basically. Just because it's historic doesn't mean it's always going to happen. Yes, but there's also another saying that says history repeats itself. And unless, again, to bring it all the way around to my original argument, unless you're trying to tell me that Josh Allen and Sean McDermott are the best quarterback head coach duo to ever do it, that can break the history of all these other all-time greats like Dan Marino, Don Shula, these other guys that couldn't do it, unless you're telling me they're better than those guys, I have to believe the history is going to repeat itself with this duo. So give Josh Allen, who in my opinion is a good enough quarterback to win a Super Bowl, give him a better, more fit coach to do so. Because I think you've seen the most out of the Sean McDermott era. A good coach, 10 to 13 wins, gets you to at best, the AFC Championship. But as someone was telling me yesterday on Twitter, it reminds them a lot of the Marty Schottenheimer days. Awesome defenses. Obviously, Schottenheimer never had the quarterback like Josh Allen, but it always felt like there was just one decision or something just looming over the Schottenheimer era that the Chiefs just fell short.
Well, not only do I think we've seen the best of the McDermott era and McDermott himself as a head coach, I think he's peaked over there. I think we might have seen the best of Josh Allen already, where he's peaked. You know what I mean? Do we see Josh Allen getting better from here? I don't know. I'm not going to act like he can't improve because he has already. Obviously Stephon Diggs, arrival helped with his percentages and his accuracy numbers and things like that. But do we see Josh Allen taking the next step as a player?
Can I answer that?
Yeah.
And I don't want to sound like I'm repeating myself here, but I'm gonna kind of repeat myself. The only way I see Josh Allen getting better is if he has a different head coach. If he gets himself a who's an offensive coordinator right now, I could see becoming like another head coach. I have to think about it for a second. But let's say the number one candidate offensive. The young dude that passed up on a job. He was it the. I want to say it was the Bengals.
Offensive coordinator?
Yeah, they're one of the offensive coordinators for a very successful. I have to think about it for a second because I should have thought about it beforehand. Let's say that guy, whoever that name is, comes to the Bills. I can see Josh Allen becoming an MVP. Because think about it. Josh Allen with Brian Dable.
Yeah, he has all the capabilities.
You could have made the case was at that time 1B to Patrick Mahomes was 1A.
That's what I'm saying. I think that might have been peak though.
Right, but
do we see him have a better season than that where he's not outperformed by Pat?
Yeah, because I think Josh Allen is entering his prime years.
Sure.
He stays healthy. Josh Allen can play for another 10 years.
But he's also a guy that takes a lot of big hits.
Sure, that's what I'm saying.
If he takes one low hit to the knee, or I'm not wishing injury on anyone, but I mean this is the nature of the game, and he has to be more of a pocket guy moving forward in his career. Are we going to see a better season than those last couple of years where he was just absolutely dominant and everyone was talking about him being the MVP, blah blah blah, running away with it? I don't know. But
here's the thing: even if
I know he's so young, so this kind of seems like an asinine topic at times.
But he's 20. He'll be 27 this year.
Right.
Even if they don't get the best out of Josh Allen after this, let's say they get 92% of what he is for the next 2 years.
He can still find success.
Yeah.
Sure.
Like 92% of Josh Allen is good enough to get the AFC Championship. We saw, because as much as I like to shit on the Bills and talk shit and say that Josh Allen isn't Patrick Mahomes when people were trying to tell us that he was for 2 years, even with all that said, let's not kid ourselves here. This man has been a baller in regular season and in the postseason. Like, I know that Bengals game, he was atrocious and he was ass in that game.
Yeah.
But dude, we witnessed that game in 2021 here in Kansas City. He was historic. And the game before that, he was even better against the Patriots. He had like 2 incompletions and 6 touchdowns. Like, he was dumb great in those 2 games. Now, he's had some ups and downs, sure. My point, though, is we've seen that Josh Allen has what it takes to be a guy that could lead his team far into the playoffs because he's done it.
Right.
Is it good? That's why I set up the whole thing with, is it good enough as it's constructed for the Bills as a franchise to beat the Chiefs and Bengals? Because I don't think so. I don't think Sean McDermott is a good enough coach to get the Bills to the Super Bowl. I don't. Because I've had no reason to believe it. He's had some of the most stacked rosters with a top 5 quarterback and still can't get it done. With 13 seconds left on the clock. And again, it was directly on his watch because he's the one that took over play calling.
Yeah.
It's like if Andy Reid was to take over play calling on the offensive side and they go 3 and out or throw a horrific interception or something like that on a bad play, is that not a reflection on Patrick or more on Andy Reid than an Eric Bieniemy?
Yeah.
Of course it would be. You know what I mean? Because he literally took over. He said, I got this. If it would have worked, are we not giving Sean McDermott praise? Hey, man, they had 13 seconds left. McDermott's like, I got this. And they sack Patrick Mahomes. They pick him off. That makes Sean McDermott like a damn genius. Is this the next Bill Belichick? Like, these are the things we'd start talking about.
Right.
It's what have you done for me? And if you're not doing it, you're not getting it done, and you've had a 5-6 year stretch to make it happen, and 4 or 5 of those years are with an elite quarterback, teams like the Bills, teams like the Chiefs, we haven't had a ton of history, a rich history of having great quarterback play. They had Jim Kelly and then 25 years of bad quarterbacks. Chiefs had the remains of Joe Montana's body and then Trent Green for a couple of years, and then it's been nothing. Like Alex Smith, average quarterback. Andy Reid made him look better than what he actually was, but we all knew that had a ceiling to it. So franchises like us have to capitalize on when you have greatness at quarterback. And if the Bills are smart, they would have said, let's see what you do this year. Your contract's through 2025. If you guys can't get to the Super Bowl, we're going to cut ties with you.
They're taking that more, let's be competitive and let's not be the best approach. That's what it feels like. The Chiefs continue to make obviously, let's be the best. We want to continue to make moves. Shit, we've been the best when everyone thought we were going to be the least. You know, the last team missing the playoffs, and we still capitalized. Granted, that's the greatness of Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. That's an advantage over anybody. But yeah, it definitely doesn't seem like they're, Kincaid could become the next Travis Kelce. That could definitely happen. That could be something where he's, just a game changer for them. But I'm with you, man. I think I've lost some faith in what they are and what they are moving forward. So, yeah, man.
Before we get to the chats, because I definitely want to get to you guys. I don't know how the comments are looking right now, Trev, but we definitely want to hear from you guys. Definitely let us know what you guys are thinking. We want to know if you're thinking of anything in particular when it comes to the Bills, because obviously we know that Chiefs fans are paying attention to the competition. We know that they pay close attention to the Bengals. I see everybody chatting back and forth with Bengals fans constantly on my timeline. I see Bills fans chiming in every once in a while, but I feel like that's starting to become like the Michael Jordan and LeBron James debate, and then it's like Kobe Bryant over here in the corner. Like the Bills have become Kobe Bryant, where somebody just kind of throws them in the mix. We're like, yeah, you don't belong in this conversation. but it's still, if you guys have thoughts on this, you guys have opinions on this, definitely drop it in our chat. Let us know what you guys are thinking about this one in particular. I do want to transition it over to the Chiefs side of things, because I do think that that's something that we still need to discuss. There has been no new developments or updates on the Chris Jones side of things. We do know that Jeremy Fowler was on ESPN again today talking about this. The expectation, according to what Brett Veach said, according to every reporter saying, is that they're expecting to get this done by training camp. And I know that's been freaking people out. And we're almost at the end of June as it is. I think it was today, June 24th.
Yep.
We're at the end of the month as it is. So people are starting to get a little bit more panicky. I don't want to go through my whole spiel again as to why I'm not worried about it. But I do tell Chiefs fans is just because we're not hearing things, I mean, there isn't language or discussions or dialogue being presented to Chris Jones and his representation. There hasn't been discussion. And for all we know, Trevor, there hasn't already been a deal agreed in principle. We don't know. And that's why I want Chiefs fans to kind of just take a deep breath and relax, because this isn't the same type of situation that Stephon Diggs and the Bills are having. You know, I've seen the comparisons. I've seen people try to, equate those, where it's like, well, I mean, the Chiefs are having problems with Chris Jones. No, they're not having problems. This is a very normal way to go about things. I don't want to be the guy that puts a blanket over a fire. I'm not trying to do that, because there is no fire. Chris Jones and the Chiefs have a long-standing relationship. He's been here now for 7 years. This is a guy that wants to get paid. This is a guy that the Chiefs want to pay. It's going to get done. And the biggest influence in all this is really just what the Chiefs are willing to compromise. Because that's the same conversation that's going on with anybody they add afterward. The reports are, and again, I put on Twitter today, for the 69th day in a row, we're hearing people bring up, well, once, and this is ESPN reporters, Jeremy Fowler, we're seeing Adam Schefter, even outside of ESPN, we're seeing Albert Breer, I want to use this clip in just a second, that are all bringing up DeAndre Hopkins after Chris Jones and other pass rushers and other guys the Chiefs might want to add. All that's only possible with the Chris Jones extension. That is why this is a motivating factor for the Chiefs to find a way to bridge the gap, because I'm sure Chris Jones and his people have a number in place. I'm sure they say, hey, look, we want $28 million. Quinnen Williams is at 27. Meet us at that point.
Yeah.
Quinnen Williams gets his deal. We'll get that deal. We can get that figured out because we're 4 years older than Quinnen Williams. We talked about this, Trevor, about how Chris Jones' market right now is set at $32.2 million on Spot Rack. I don't think that number's realistic. I don't think that's where he's going to get it. I think he can get within $3 million of that, $29 million at most. I don't think Chris Jones is going to get that at his age. I think if he was Quinnen Williams' age, he's getting 30 plus. Yeah. I don't think that's what's going to happen, though. And I think, again, because of the motivating factors of what this opens up for the Chiefs, outside of just solidifying their elite pass rusher, it's also opening up the door for other opportunities for them to add other veterans that this team clearly needs. Because I had posted, I don't know if you saw it, Trevor, or not, but I had posted the Chiefs' biggest needs when it comes to building their current roster, when it comes to how they're going to build this roster, how they're going to continue to build this roster, because we know the draft is the primary focus, but you still have to add guys because of training camp injuries, things of that nature. But as it stood, Trevor, here are my four biggest or only remaining needs, because this roster is pretty deep, I would say. I mean, overall, this is one of the 3 to 5 best rosters in football. I don't know if it's the best, but it's definitely in the top 5. As it stands, without question, the number 1 is wide receiver 1. I'm going to get to that in a second. Number 2 is offensive tackle depth. Biggest reason why I'm saying that is because we don't know who's even playing left tackle. I know that there's an assumption that Donovan Smith. Thank you. Donovan Smith is going to play left tackle because that's what his more comfortable position, playing with the Buccaneers.
He's a veteran, yeah.
He is the veteran, but I still feel that the Chiefs need depth at that position, because if he's not good, and he is cooked, they're going to have to figure that out pretty quickly. I'm not saying you're going to go find a left tackle in free agency right now.
Injuries he sustained already in his career as well.
You got to get depth. And my third is defensive tackle depth, because even though I'm a big believer in Keandre Coburn, I believe he's going to be a stud in this defense. The only reason why I believe that, though, is because he's going to be next to Chris Jones. Sure. Chris Jones will be here next season and the years beyond. I am very confident in that. But they're very deep. They're very thin at that position. In fact, I think that's the thinnest position they have. I really do believe that, even more so than some of their cornerback defensive, because I know that there's a lot of young guys in the cornerback position, but if you look at their cornerback position right now, they're very deep. They have a lot of proven commodities of their defensive backs as a whole.
Yeah.
Veteran players at safety, things of that nature. So that's the thinnest position I think this team has as it's currently constructed. I'd love to see them add at least one more piece to that. And my fourth and final is defensive edge depth. The biggest reason why that is because if you look at the way the team is constructed right now, they have a ton of young talent. Charles Omenihu, 25 years old, veteran player, obviously adds extreme depth. And in fact, I think he can be a sleeper player for the Chiefs. We'll talk about that as the summer goes on. But I think that he's going to be a guy that the Chiefs can definitely rely on that side of Chris Jones, on the opposite end of George Karlaftis. Yeah. Having said that, though, if you look at the way the team's constructed right now at edge, they don't have a lot of veteran presence. They really don't. They lost Frank Clark. Carlos Dunlap isn't with the team right now. There's not that 31, 32-year-old guy that can play rotational that's on this team right now. They're not. So I would love to see the potential of Yannick Ngakoue or Justin Houston or Carlos Dunlap to come back to this team and get an opportunity to be a rotational third down pass rusher. They don't have that guy right now. So wide receiver one, offensive tackle depth, defensive tackle depth, and defensive end depth. Trevor, what do you think right now as far as the needs of this team? Where do you want to see this team address it once the Chris Jones contract is finalized?
I think obviously for me the glaring need is the defensive line. That's why I wanted to go defensive line heavy, so heavy in this draft. And we got some guys, but I wanted to see. I still would like to see, like we've discussed on the show, some additional free agent moves, some veterans to bring into. There's been rumors, obviously, about Carlos Dunlap possibly coming back as well. I would definitely be on board with that, with his capabilities and what he brought to this team last year, with his ball batting abilities, and him and Omenihu, I think would be a nice, little duo there on the edge with their height and their abilities to bat balls. Yeah, I think defensive line is the glaring one here. If we had moved on from Snead, obviously there would be a glaring need there, I think, in the secondary of the DBs. But he's still very much on this roster, so I don't think there's much to worry about at this season. But yeah, I think defensive tackle and interior defensive line, is the must. I think I think the most talked about one, and on this show especially, and keeps getting brought up amongst every report when Chris Jones is brought up, is wide receiver one, is the DeAndre Hopkins sweepstakes. Yeah, I think that's the one. I think we don't have the big sexy name anymore. We've been a team that's had the big names like Tyreek Hill and the big game breaker and game busting, game breaking kind of player, and we haven't had that for over a season or two now. And I think that's the biggest talking point for whatever need is on this Chiefs team, whether certain sects of Chiefs fans want to believe it or not. We do need a true wide receiver one, because we have nothing but unproven commodities at this point. I like the guys we have on this team. I really do. I think there's a lot of upside, like a shit ton of upside in this wide receiver room. I really, really do believe that. And I think one of these guys, I think, is bound to explode in this offense. Whether it's Sky Moore taking the next step, and I've been seeing his film, and I've been hearing the reports about Sky Moore looking great. Shit, dude, I'm all about that. Rashee Rice, I think, has crazy potential for the future of this team and what this team is going to be. Him possibly being the guy moving forward, and obviously Kadarius Toney. I'm a Kadarius Toney fanboy. I love that guy, but D-Hop is better than all those guys possibly combined, if I'm being honest with you right now. So we still are very much in the D-Hop sweepstakes. Every report on the Chiefs and Chris Jones simultaneously is being reported with D-Hop attached to that. This move being attached to opening up space for D-Hop. So I think wide receiver one, an alpha wide receiver one, and the interior defensive line. Everything else, man, I feel like we got good enough depth. And we have guys that proved themselves, young guys in the secondary defensively that proved themselves last year. And I expect them all to take the next step, in this defense this year, especially another year in the system. Spags having fun with these guys. I expect nothing less, and then, King Felix, being an addition to this, pressure in the defensive end. being a guy that's going to get after the quarterback with George Karlaftis possibly taking the next step. I feel good about this defense moving forward. So it's really the interior and then getting that stud alpha true wide receiver one. So I'm right there with you, man.
We to briefly go over what you're talking about when it comes to the biggest need, which I think we both do agree it is wide receiver one. I'm gonna give my take on this position as currently constructed in a way I haven't yet, because I know we've talked about it a lot, but it's going to be based upon what this new report has been just a few days ago from Albert Breer. He was on the Monday Morning Quarterback show, and he was talking about his recent updates. And if we know anything about Albert Breer, he's been the one that's been speaking the most about what's going on in the DeAndre Hopkins camp, what teams are going after him, what teams are realistic for him, all these things. He's been the one that's talked about it the most. And we know that DeAndre Hopkins just got done with his visits with the New England Patriots and the Tennessee Titans.
Apparently they went well.
Well, here's the report from Albert Breer.
Yeah.
What this tells me that he wants to wait till the start of training camp is that he's still holding out hope that he's going to play for a contender, like a true contender, like a Buffalo or Kansas City. And the one thing you want to watch here, Kansas City's got almost no cap space. They're working on a long-term deal for Chris Jones, their star defensive tackle, to lower his cap number. If that happens, the door could open back up to him going to the Chiefs. So I think really what he's waiting for is something like that to materialize right now, because the money isn't great. It's not the Odell Beckham level, which was what he was looking for. And like absent the money, I think he does want to play for a true contender.
Okay.
Yeah, no shit.
So here's why I've been staying firm on this, because of the fact, guys, look, plain and simple, period, point blank. If the money was out there for D-Hop, he would have already taken it, because that would have made the most sense, because he wanted that money. And we heard Pat Mahomes just a week ago on the Two Gyms and a Mic talk about how he wants the bag. Man, of course he does. Everybody wants the bag. I get it. He's a proven veteran Hall of Fame player in this league. Of course you want to make some money. But Albert Breer is confirming that money is not there, which means that D-Hop, who wants to win also, is going to have to settle for a little less money. Pat Mahomes also said that in his video clip with Two Gyms and a Mic, that he knows that he's been on the phone for the last couple of months with his son, Patrick Mahomes, because he wants to play in Kansas City.
Yeah.
The fact that Albert Breer and Jeremy Fowler and all these people keep bringing up the same talking point, that it's all centered around Chris Jones's contract, tells me that once the contract is inevitably done, that we're going to see the Chiefs snatch up DeAndre Hopkins. Because, again, if the Patriots or Titans were to get DeAndre Hopkins, it would have already happened, because what is he waiting on? And people say it's the Bills that are still in the picture. The Bills are not, because unlike the Chiefs, the Bills don't have a move. They can go and free up $10 to $15 million in cap. They don't have that move anymore. They did with the Ed Oliver contract, but they went and signed Leonard Floyd. They went and signed other wide receivers. That's the point here, Trevor. And to the point you just made that I thought was well done, which is why I'm approaching this differently, I think the conversation has gone from Chiefs fans. I think the conversation has gone in a way it shouldn't have gone when it comes to adding DeAndre Hopkins. Instead of looking at it as a blessing, people are looking at it as a deterrent. And I don't understand that. Our guy Nick Wright, who I love very much and respect very much, is doing the same thing. He literally says on his show, and we brought this up a few weeks ago, about how Nick Wright believes if you bring a DeAndre Hopkins in, it's going to stunt the growth of a Kadarius Toney or Sky Moore. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Because in an offense, especially like the Chiefs, that spread the ball around so much so that your backup 30-year-old running back led the team in receiving touchdowns, like that's the point you have to look at. Is this ball is going to be spread all over the floor, all over the field, regardless of who's out there.
Yeah.
And from the positive perspective, guys, adding a DeAndre Hopkins is only going to help Sky Moore develop, only going to help Kadarius Toney stay healthy. Why? Because Kadarius Toney won't have to be wide receiver one. Guys like MVS can just be what they are.
Right.
500 to 700 yards, 3-4 touchdowns a year kind of guy. You can't honestly expect MVS to become a wide receiver one in this team. It's not realistic. He's 28 years old now. We know what he is.
Yeah, and I got this to say, too, about people that continue to say that the Chiefs are fine at wide receiver. Did you believe that when Tyreek Hill left and we got Juju? Did you think that we were fine? No, there was a lot of question marks, right? And now we don't even have Juju. Now we don't even have McCole, and somehow we're fine? People were freaking the hell out when we lost Tyreek Hill.
Including me.
Did all these same people think that we were fine at wide receiver? No, I understand Patrick Mahomes is great, and Andy Reid is great at spreading the ball out and making plays, but are you really that ignorantly confident in all these unproven guys on this roster to say that we're fine at wide receiver? We don't know that. We don't know that because we didn't know that when we got Juju. And I was very happy to get Juju and MVS and guys like that and piece these guys together and create a unit. That was fun, but it was still unproven.
Right.
Juju is still a young guy that has never really proved himself, had one really good season in his career and has had a lot of injuries. Came over and he was out a couple games even with us. We won a championship, and I get that. But we've also lost the guys that played key roles in that. The guys like McCole Hardman winning big games for us during the regular season against the Niners, absolutely just de-pantsing them, having big games like that, and having Juju as consistent as they come this past season during the regular season. Those guys are gone now. So how could you be that confident when we weren't even that confident after Tyreek left? Now we're even with less talent this time around. So it only makes sense to say we do need a D-Hop. We do need that. It's not a want. It is a need. We do need a proven guy to come in and be that alpha, to rally the troops and teach these young boys a thing or two.
Right.
Kadarius Toney, Rashee Rice, a freaking rookie. Year 2, Sky Moore. Like, these guys have a whole career ahead of them. It's not like we need them to be the guy this year.
Right.
We need to relax. Like, this wide receiver room is not fine. It could be.
Yeah.
It could be. I'm not saying that it's not. I'm not saying, but that we would have to retroactively have this discussion again to say, oh, yeah, this wide receiver room was fine. Sky Moore is the truth. Or Kadarius Toney played this whole season without injury and had 15 touchdowns and 1,200 yards. That would be great. I hope we can have a retroactive conversation about that. But right now, this wide receiver room is not fine. I'm not fine with trying to project what we think these guys are going to be without actually knowing who these guys are yet.
And furthermore, Trevor, here's the other thing. How often, and I'm going to answer it for you guys because it's a rhetorical question, how often do you get a top 5 to 10 wide receiver sitting there in free agency that wants to play for just your team?
Right.
Especially when other teams that can go and snatch them up are teams that either aren't good enough to beat you as currently constructed, or teams that are good enough to beat you or at least be at your level can't afford to go and get them. How often do all those check marks happen in an offseason for a team? It doesn't. You have to capitalize when opportunities like this present themselves. And furthermore, Trevor, to talk about this schematically, because you're saying about how these guys don't have to be the guy this year, with or without D-Hop, right? Imagine how much easier it would be for Sky Moore, let's say he was to become the guy, or Kadarius Toney to become the guy, or a Rashee Rice, as crazy as that sounds right now in his rookie year, to become the guy.
Right.
Think about how much easier it would be for those guys to become the guy on one-on-one coverages against a cornerback too. With knowing that Travis Kelce and D-Hop are going to get the majority of the focus from the defense each and every week, as opposed to the other way around, where it's Travis Kelce obviously getting the bulk, the cornerback one or bracket coverage, and then you get the best the second best guy on the team, as opposed to third or fourth on the defensive side. How much more difficult it's going to be for these guys? That's what I'm saying. And look at it. I don't like to bring up Andy Reid's Eagles career when it comes to comparing to Chiefs, because I think he's gone a completely different trajectory with the Kansas City. Even though he was super successful in Philadelphia, we know having Patrick Mahomes sent him to a whole nother level. I want to bring it up here because of this. I think this is an Donovan was an awesome quarterback. Patrick Mahomes, not even close. But he was a really good quarterback. He was a top 10 quarterback of his era. I would say that confidently. Donovan McNabb was a really good quarterback for 8-9 years, right? They went to 4 NFC championship games with Donovan McNabb. They went to 1 Super Bowl, Trevor.
Yep.
Do you want to know the difference as to why they didn't go to 4 Super Bowls as opposed to 1? Do you happen to remember who happened to be the wide receiver 1 of that team when they went to the 1 Super Bowl? Who was it, Trevor?
That's Terrell Owens.
Terrell Owens, thank you. The one time they went to a Super Bowl. Was Donovan McNabb all of a sudden better? Was Andy Reid all of a sudden a better coach? Did the Eagles not already have a loaded roster all those years before? What made the difference? Now, obviously, the Chiefs can go to Super Bowls and win without a wide receiver 1 because Juju wasn't really that guy.
No,
he was a solid wide receiver 2 for them.
Right.
He had 10 receptions in the Super Bowl.
But even that's gone.
That's my point, Trevor.
I know.
So all the more reason, yes, the Chiefs could win a Super Bowl, get to a Super Bowl without a D-Hop, sure.
Yes.
But the proof is there, guys, that a team as stacked as the Eagles were with a top 10 quarterback got to their 1 Super Bowl the moment they had a star receiver. The moment they had that guy. Now, yes, Travis Kelce is technically that guy, but as I've broken down so many times on this show before, when you look at Travis Kelce's production, you also have to consider how much has been on his shoulders for how many years now? 7-8 years.
Yeah.
He's had to be the guy. And now remember, here's the other thing, Trevor. Bring it to Kansas City in the Andy Reid era. 2018, Patrick Mahomes becomes the starting quarterback for the Chiefs. They already had Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce in place, correct? And they both were in their 20s. They still went and spent $16 million a year on Sammy Watkins.
Right.
Sammy Watkins made the final death nail coffin catch in the AFC Championship to send the Chiefs to their first Super Bowl in over 50 years. Yeah. Why? Because Sammy Watkins was getting one-on-one coverage. Who also made the biggest catch in the Super Bowl? Obviously, you know, the wasp play to Tyreek Hill was the big play, 3rd and 15, obviously. But remember the one-on-one coverage that Richard Sherman, who was cooked at that time of his career, who caught the pass?
Sammy Watkins.
Sammy freaking Watkins, Trevor. So even if one of these young dudes on this team becomes the next Tyreek Hill, even if Travis Kelce is the same guy he was 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago, did Sammy Watkins not play his pivotal role in the AFC Championship and the Super Bowl? Did he not? I mean, to this day, our guy Shaggy Shane and other fans still praise Sammy Watkins for what he did for this team in the playoffs. Do you not think D-Hop could be that and more? So even if he's to become a Sammy Watkins, you're getting him cheaper, not as many guaranteed dollars, probably not even that much at all, at most a 2-year deal. So if D-Hop was to become your Sammy Watkins, does that not help elevate your chances of winning a Super Bowl? Just like Sammy Watkins, bringing him in elevated their chance of winning a Super Bowl, which they did.
Right.
That's my point in all of this, man, is that quit looking at this negatively.
Yeah.
Look at it as adding him as an absolute positive. He's not taking away from... Sammy Watkins didn't take anything away from Tyreek Hill or Travis Kelce. Just like those guys didn't take anything away from him.
And the thing is, too, like, the point I always circle right back around to is... It doesn't matter if people think this is a want or a need or if the Chiefs are interested in this. The Chiefs are interested.
Exactly.
The Chiefs are in the sweepstakes. The Chiefs are the only team getting consistently mentioned and brought up even during a Chris Jones report about D-Hop. That's not being reported unless someone's pushing that out to these guys, these talking heads, to report that and tie that to the Chris Jones contract. The Chiefs aren't wanting that out there if that's not wanted out there.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's being reported because the Chiefs are pushing that, whether it's to bait another team to overpay for him and you know, whatever. Everything's strategy. This is all strategy, right? So the Chiefs are obviously I think the Chiefs obviously want to get him. I think it's a want, or I think it's a need more than I do is a want, because I think for the reasons we've discussed already on the show. But why would, I mean, and also too, why would the Chiefs take their foot off the gas when everyone else, not only across the league, but everyone else specifically in the AFC has done nothing but add fuel, add weapons, and got nothing but better to beat us? So we need to remain one step ahead from these teams. We are the defending champs, and teams are coming for us. You know, so why would we take our foot off the gas? It makes more sense to push the pedal to the metal, man.
Let's go ahead and get to a couple of these comments that I know we have on our live stream. Go ahead, Trevor. Let's go ahead and bring some of those up.
Sure. I mean, there's more comments than there are questions. We do have one question. And we'll get to the question here in a second. But as far as like what's on par with what we're talking about right now at the second, we have a comment saying that I can't see who it is. It just says Facebook user, but I'm going to put it on the screen regardless. I'm sure you can probably see it on your phone if you're looking at it. But it says, we can't afford D-Hop. We are fine. This is kind of what I was aiming my comments at. We are fine at wide receiver. Yeah, and things such as that. And then it more saying that it's a want than it is a need. And no, they weren't really freaking out when Tyreek Hill got traded. Can we stop the BS right now? Please. Everyone was tripping when we got rid of Tyreek Hill. Granted, after the trade kind of settled and he kind of started talking shit, then we're like, oh, and then we started taking it personal. We were kind of okay with him being somewhere else. But when we first knew Tyreek Hill was gone, a lot of us fans were in shambles. Let's not lie to ourselves right now after the fact.
We had a whole opening segment about it, how for the first 48 hours of that, I was in absolute depression mode because, I mean, Tyreek Hill, we knew how special he was to this offense, and losing him and not being able to adequately replace him is a huge loss. And that's why so many people are like, oh, can the Chiefs bounce back from this? Is Patrick Mahomes going to be the same quarterback? Obviously, he proved that to be wrong. But those comments were from our guy, Brennan Carter. Brennan, we appreciate you dropping in, man. Feel free to drop as many comments as you like, questions, whatever you got, man. We want to hear from you and everybody else that's watching and listening to this, whether live or later on. I will directly respond to that when you say we can't afford D-Hop. I've already broken it down 15 times, man. The Chiefs absolutely can and will. Because once this Chris Jones extension goes through, which unless our guy Brendan thinks that that's not going to happen,
which is why he keeps getting mentioned and brought up on the reports for Chris Jones.
Jeremy Fowler this morning, I watched it live. You can go watch the old clippings of it on SportsCenter. Jeremy Fowler was giving an update on Chris Jones' extension, which is going to happen. He said, by training camp, the Chiefs expect this to be done. Then, out of nowhere, no question about DeAndre Hopkins whatsoever, DeAndre Hopkins has brought up about the Chiefs potentially kicking the tires on him if and when this contract extension is done. Why would this, from Adam Schefter to Jeremy Fowler to Albert Breer, across the board of reporters that have all the same sources, continue to peddle that out there unless the Chiefs were absolutely interested? If the Chiefs weren't interested in DeAndre Hopkins, we know how the Chiefs operate. If the Chiefs knew they couldn't afford him no matter what, we know we would have heard, back in February, the Chiefs were interested. They were looking for a trade, couldn't make it happen. They've been out of it now for some time now. We'll see if, maybe down the road they can figure out something. But as it stands, the Chiefs are not interested. We've not heard that one time. At worst, we've heard the Chiefs they've gauged interest throughout the offseason to see where he's at. That sounds like a team that would very much want D-Hop, because it isn't us that are saying it's a need. It's the Chiefs. I'm going off of what, like you said, Trevor, they clearly are interested. It isn't just us sitting here spitballing here, coming up with theories. We're going off of what the Chiefs are showing us.
Well, and I think it shows that D-Hop's interested as well. Because you don't think D-Hop's camp doesn't want that report out there as well?
We're hearing it from the Mahomes family themselves.
Right. Well, and the fact that these visits that went so good in New England and in Tennessee and all this and that, there's no he didn't leave any of those places with a contract. Still hasn't had a contract or anything, reached back out with them and had, another contract negotiating or whatever. I mean, we don't know everything that's going on behind the scenes, but he's still floating out there, man. I think he's still waiting on the best deal and best situation for himself. And the fact that the Chiefs keep getting mentioned while talking about Chris Jones, sometimes it's really easy. Sometimes it's really easy. You don't have to dig too deep to see the tea leaves. Yeah. Right? Sometimes the tea leaves are right there, lined up in line for you to see and read what's on the writings on the wall. And the fact that D-Hop keeps getting mentioned and thrown out there during the Chris Jones negotiation talks, it just shows that there's some smoke here, and eventually I think we're going to find the fire, man.
Couldn't agree more. What's the question that we have, Trev?
So we have a YouTube question. Put it on the screen here for us. It's from a Julia Colton. Question: with the fullback position being phased out of the game and the rise of the tight end, do you see any other evolution of the game?
That's a really good question. I like that.
Question.
I think. And that's a really good question.
I know my answer.
No, go ahead.
I'm just going to go right to it. I think, and we're seeing it in the market or lack thereof of a market. But the running back position, I think, is really being truly phased out as far as like what a true bell cow. I think the game has changed. I think probably for safety reasons as well, overwhelming the bodies of a lot of these workhorse running backs. Man, that we've seen over the years. We've seen a lot of these guys deal with injuries and then just absolutely just get ran into the ground. I think this is good though for longevity of the position. I think they've become more of pass catching positions as well. They've become more of a hybrid receiver role, and I think you can thank Andy Reid and other bright minds offensively of this game that have kind of evolved that position. And I think it is for the good. I know we've seen like Melvin Gordon was coming out talking about how it sucks being a running back right now or whatever, and the market's shitty. It's all supply and demand, bro. I think it will change. I think the pendulum will swing back. I think we got guys like Austin Eckler and Saquon Barkley that are incredible at everything. They can catch the ball. They can run the ball. They can run between the tackles. They can get short yardage. Those kind of guys are still going to be, I believe, be valued. I don't think the market will ever be what it used to be. Back in like the Priest Holmes, LJ, as far as the Chiefs guys go, Derrick Henry is one of the last dying breeds of kind of that true number one bell cow kind of guy that can get, damn near 300-plus rushing attempts in a season. Yep. I don't think that's going to happen anymore. So I think that as far as an evolution of a position and the changing of the game, I do think the running back is the most glaring one to me at this point. I think the tight end obviously is becoming more of a pass-catching position as well. The spread offense has fully integrated itself into the NFL world. It's become more of like the college game. When it used to be the other way around, the college used to kind of try to mimic the NFL and try to get guys prepped for the NFL, but the NFL has actually kind of shifted more towards the faster-paced collegiate style offense, spread, run and gun kind of fast-paced offenses, and I think it's helped the game. I think it's far more entertaining. The games aren't nearly as long. It's not grinding it down with 50 rushing attempts per game. I think it's more fun that way, and I think it's the evolution of the running back position and allowing teams to have a running back room that's utilized, not depending on one guy to get all the work. They're having a lot of 3-headed monster teams, 2-headed monster teams, and I think that creates more opportunities. Yes, I think the guy at the top is going to get paid less, but I think it creates more opportunities for guys on the roster to get a chance to kind of showcase their talent. So I like the way it's trending. These true bell cow running back guys that want the big money at the running back position, they're not going to get that, I don't think, moving forward, but I think it's better for the game, in my personal opinion.
I like that one. I think that you're right on that one. You're right on the nose, but I'm going to actually go to the defensive side because I think this is a position that has slowly lost its luster, at least from a star perspective and at least from a schematics perspective. I think the middle linebacker position.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Biggest reason why, and ironically, a lot of people call that the running back position of the defense. Biggest reason why is, to your point, Trevor, teams aren't running the ball like they used to up the middle, and that's when like Ray Lewis and those guys were and
they're getting smaller too and faster, so they can play more coverage.
And now it's becoming more of a defenses in the middle of the field are becoming almost positionless.
Yeah.
Because now you have like bigger safeties and smaller linebackers to where they almost look like the same type of player.
Yeah.
Like Patrick Queen 15 years ago would have been a linebacker. They'd have beefed him up.
Yeah.
But now he's a slender body where he plays like a hybrid, where it's linebacker / safety. There's more hybrid guys on defense now because you have to be more present for the pass game. That's why guys like Drew Tranquil are so big for this Chiefs team, because Nick Bolton, although as an absolute tackling machine, he's more of a throwback. And unfortunately, that's a little bit more of an archaic style of football, which is why Nick Bolton is so limited in today's NFL, but he still plays a good role. You still have to have guys that can tackle the middle of the field, an open field, but those guys are not as valuable as they were, let's say, in 2000, 2001,
Sure.
where Ray Lewis, let's say like Ray Lewis was playing right now, they would have him thinned down, he'd drop 20, 30 pounds, and he'd play a little bit more of a safety style of football, as crazy as that sounds.
Yeah.
He wouldn't play middle linebacker like he did 20, 25 years ago. So I think that's the position where you're going to see a little bit more evolution continue to go that way. You're not seeing as many of those Brian Urlacher, 270-pound, 265-pound middle linebackers that are just bulky and just running in the middle of the field and hitting your running back head on.
Yeah.
Those aren't the guys, and I think that's where we're going to continue to see evolution on the defensive side of things.
Yeah, I like it. I think the game is getting a little smaller and faster. I think the pace of the game matters a lot, defensively and offensively.
Great question, Julian.
I think to keep up with the faster pace of the offense, you need quicker, little slimmer, more agile defensive players all the way around.
Absolutely.
So I think so guys aren't nearly as demanding to be as big as they used to be, especially in the box of the linebacker core. We do have another question from our guy, consistent questions every week, James T. Kirk on YouTube. He says, in your opinion, if they could, would you like to see Dalvin Cook here in KC?
If they could, yes, because of the fact that Dalvin Cook, to me, is one of the 10 best running backs in football. If you can get that guy paired up with Isaiah Pacheco to the point where Jerick McKinnon is your running back 3, then you have the deepest running back room in the NFL. Like, that's straight up. You would have 2 guys in the top 15 running backs. I think Isaiah Pacheco is the top 15 running back in today's NFL.
Yeah.
And then Dalvin Cook coming off 4 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons. Yes.
In this offense? My God.
If you're getting him for like a $2-3 million deal, yeah. But here's the other thing. We'd have to be realistic as to what our expectations would be for Dalvin. Because Dalvin comes from an offense like the Minnesota Vikings like to run the ball.
Yeah.
You're not running the ball here in Kansas City, so you have to become more of a pass-catching type of dual threat. And although he can, Dalvin's never been known to be that guy. He's more of a between-the-tackles type of running back.
Yeah.
And he also has injury concerns, so that's something else you'd have to consider as well. So the only way it could happen is if the Chiefs got him for basically next to nothing in money, because the Chiefs, not only with the market of running backs being the way it is, like you just addressed, Trevor, it's also the fact that in Kansas City we know that it's never going to be the running backs. As long as Patrick Mahomes is the quarterback he is, it's never going to be the running backs that are the end-all, be-all of an offense here in Kansas City and Andy Reid's scheme. So, yeah, I would obviously welcome him, but it'd have to be next to nothing as far as dollars and cents are concerned.
Yeah, see, kids, this is an example of a want, not a need.
Yes.
That would be fun to have Dalvin Cook in the RB room, of course, but we don't need him. We have proven commodities. We have a running back that in year 1, 7th-round running back that proved to be a stud, playing through injuries and still scoring touchdowns while carrying other individuals on his shoulders into the end zone in the Super Bowl. So we don't have a need there. That would be a want. I would love to see Dalvin Cook in this offense, of course. But guys like D-Hop, just to throw that back out there, is more of a need because we have a bunch of unproven things that we have yet to see be leaders in this offense. But yeah, I digress. We don't have any other questions. We have some other comments, just some people chiming in and showing their support. Guys like Brian Parrott, I believe is his last name, or Parrott, I'm not sure. Telling everybody to hit the like button. I do appreciate the support, man. Thank you very much for that.
He's always in the chat, man. We appreciate him.
Yeah. Oh, we do
always supporting, man.
We do have one more question that just came in from Julia Colton again. I'm gonna put it on the screen here for you, Julia. It says, "If or when do we get D-Hop? How many wide receivers we taking, and who gets bumped?"
Well, here's the thing: the Chiefs historically have kept around 6 or 7 wide receivers. I think it's going to be 6.
Yeah.
Because you also want to be able to add as many offensive line and special teams guys as possible. You asked correctly, Trevor. So I think it's going to be 6. Okay, I know we make predictions later on, but I'll give you this because she's asking this question specifically. If D-Hop was to be signed right now, these are my 6 wide receivers I'd keep on this team. You have D-Hop, Kadarius Toney, Sky Moore, MVS, and then I would go with Rashee Rice, and then Richie James. Those would be my 6 wide receivers.
And Richie James is a great special teams guy, so I think capping him off with him. And who knows,
man? I know that'd piss people off because Justin Ross wouldn't make the roster. In that case, he would still be on the practice squad. Okay, let me put yours. Well, I have to take that back actually because I think Justin Watson's going to make this roster. So I'd probably have to substitute out Richie James.
Forgot about Forrest Gump.
Richie James. I would probably, if I had to, because of the fact of Justin Watson's contract, you'd have to put him on this roster. So
that's a great problem to have, isn't it?
Exactly. So here's the thing: if Rashee Rice, if it comes down to Rashee Rice and Richie James, the question you have to ask is which one of them would be more of a special teams guy. Because Rashee Rice is not going to be a guy that's going to get a lot of touches this year. So maybe you put Rashee on the practice squad. Yeah. Or let's say you put him on the quote unquote injured reserve. Oh, he's got a tweak. Oh, he's going to be on the injured reserve this year. Because we already know wide receivers in the rookie years in Andy Reid's system do not get a lot of play. They don't get a lot of production. And when you already have Travis Kelce, DeAndre Hopkins, Kadarius Toney, MVS, Sky Moore, there's a lot of mouths to feed. Even with Patrick Mahomes spreading the ball around, Jerick McKinnon's going to get his receptions. A lot of mouths to feed. I just don't know if Rashee Rice would get an opportunity. So maybe you bring Richie James over Rashee Rice for this year, give him a little bit of a red shirt year, Rashee Rice, and then second year comes in, plays more of a pivotal role because there's a chance D-Hop's gone, MVS is going to be gone. Then he gets his opportunity. So I'll say D-Hop, Kadarius Toney, MVS, Sky Moore, Joe Watson, and then Richie James.
Yeah, I think Richie James is the bottom of the list here. I think he's the closest to the most likely, I think, to get bumped if it comes down to the depth here. But I mean, that's a great problem to have, man. A plethora of riches in that room for Patrick Mahomes to choose from, and I think having depth because guys go down, we know that. But I think Richie James will make this roster. I think as a special teamer for sure. I think he's going to get utilized a lot for kick returns and things like that. So I do like keeping him around. But Rashee Rice, man, we don't know. I hope he becomes something, and I think he will. And I think he will make this roster. But having that depth at wide receiver to even have this conversation is a great thing to have because other teams are dying to have legitimate receivers for their team, and they just don't. And here we are talking about what guy do we not want to see get bumped at the very bottom of the list.
That's what I said, man. When you knock these guys down just one peg and you add D-Hop, all of a sudden your wide receiver room goes from one of the thinnest to one of the thickest, man, if we're being honest here, man. Let's be real.
Yeah. We have the question here from Brian Parrott. Hope I'm saying your last name right. Will George Karlaftis continue will George Karlaftis continue outperforming guys like Thibodeau and become a genuine pass rush commodity in this league?
Well, him and Thibodeau have a little bit of a different style, so it's kind of hard to really compare them to. I think they'll both be effective in their own way. And Kayvon Thibodeau is my guy. I wanted the Chiefs to trade up for him a couple years ago. They ended up going with Karlaftis 30th overall. My expectations are actually higher for Kayvon because Kayvon was a significantly higher pick. So I think Kayvon's going to probably have the better career. But that is not a knock on George Karlaftis whatsoever because I think this guy is going to be a dude that's going to get close to 100 sacks in his career. Yeah. I don't say that lightly.
Thibodeau's a beast.
He's got all the freaking capabilities. He's got the work ethic. He's all about ball. That's one thing I said about that. I loved about that draft class in particular is that every single guy that Brett Veach took with the 12 or they took 10 guys, all about football. They're obsessed with playing football. And that is George Karlaftis pioneers that. He leads that way. So to answer your question as honestly as I don't know if he's going to outperform Thibodeau, because I think Thibodeau is the better player, and I think he has higher expectations. But I think that George Karlaftis is going to outperform a lot of expectations he naturally had, because people didn't look at him as a guy that's going to be a all-world pass rusher. And I think he's a guy that's going to have multiple seasons with 10-plus sacks.
I still think Thibodeau is the better talent. Obviously, where he was drafted as well showcases that. I think he's in a great system as well. I think there in New York, where he's at, is a good spot for him to really showcase, what he's capable of. And I think he showed that this last season. He got banged up towards the end of the year as well. But George is one of those guys I think that's going to be so consistent.
Yeah.
He may not have the big flashy games all the time, but I think he's going to have good games here and there, really good games here and there. And who knows? With this new surrounding cast around him this season, extra pressure on the other end. Who knows what King Felix becomes. If he becomes a big bright star and adds that extra pressure and forces other attention to that side, this could be a tandem. This could be a duo. And I love George Karlaftis. I said he was going to be great last year. I believe he took that step, and I think he has a really good chance to take that next step this year as well, with the added guys around him. So, do I think he's going to continue to outperform guys like Thibodeau? That's tough. I'm not going to say it's out of the cards for him. I definitely think he could. I think he can continue to grow, and I think he's one of those guys that has that want to and that can do. So, sure. I mean, I do think he could become a consistent commodity in this league, especially for a young defense. He could become that that leader of this young defense, and this defense tend to be built around pass rushers. If he can become that guy for this team, I think he become a household name for sure. We have another question coming in from Trish on YouTube. Says, what position group will benefit from the lack of a fullback this year?
First of all, Trish, thank you so much for joining us. I think this is her first time joining us on the live stream. We appreciate it. If it's not, welcome back, Trish. Great question. I know, funny enough, fullback's been a topic of conversation today. I like that. It's interesting. I actually have a very swift answer for that. It's going to actually be the quarterback position. As crazy as that sounds, because I know that fullbacks are usually primarily there to protect the quarterback, that little chip, or to add that extra protection for running back. But because this offense is so fast-happy and centric, at taking away that fullback off the field is going to add another weapon. So I think that's only going to help the quarterback position. It's going to add another weapon, another option for Patrick Mahomes to throw to this offseason, or this next season. So instead of having a Bolton or a Sherman out there, you're going to have another running back. You're going to have an Isaiah Pacheco and Jerick McKinnon lining up. You're going to have another tight end on the field. You're going to have a Noah Gray, Travis Kelce, and Jody Fortson on the field. Like, those to me are better opportunities and better scenarios than having a Bolton or having a Sherman and then Travis Kelce and Noah Gray. If you added Fortson as opposed to a Sherman, sign me up. I'd rather have those guys that are going to be adequate and legitimate receiving weapons and receiving options for Patrick Mahomes than having a fullback in this offense. If this was 20 years ago and Trent Green was our quarterback and Priest Holmes and Larry Johnson were running the ball, I'd rather have Tony Richardson than having another tight end on the field. No offense to those guys, but I think that's more suitable for those styles of offenses. This style of offense doesn't really need fullbacks, which is why I was always kind of confused that Andy Reid kept bringing in fullbacks for all these years. I think he's finally getting it that they don't need a fullback on this roster anymore, and they're just going to use tight ends like Blake Bell. He'll be used in the fullback position when need be because he's so damn huge. You can do that, but I think overall adding another weapon on the offense is ideal to me.
Yeah, I think the obvious answer is the quarterback because he will benefit from having another pass catcher on the offense. Granted, fullbacks can definitely be used as pass catchers, but it's very rare and very unique. Very randomly does that ever happen, and Andy Reid is one of the few coaches that will ever have a passing play to a guy like Sherman on a freaking wheel route in week 1 against the Chargers. I'll never forget that play, man. That was so fun to watch. But yeah, that's just not something they get utilized as they're typically a chip block kind of guy or a short yardage push move the sticks kind of guy. So I think the tight end position for me is the one that benefits the most as far as opportunity to get on the field more, to have more chances to make plays. And, guys like you said, Jody Fortson, if we can choose between him or a fullback back there, sure. Yeah, I'm taking that chance.
Great question, Trish. We really appreciate that.
Do appreciate that. We have another comment from James Kirk as well, talking about people have been mentioning who I think we've discussed this on the show before, I think as well. People have been mentioning who will the Chiefs keep next year? Willie Gay, Trey Smith, Nick Bolton. Those are tough choices.
100% tough choices because all three of those guys are very important pieces to the Chiefs winning Super Bowls.
Yeah.
What I will say, though, is because when you're a team like the Chiefs that are going after Super Bowls every single year, your team is built upon your quarterback and a non-expensive defense, if we're being honest here, because Chris Jones is really going to be the only expensive piece for this defense for the next couple of years. Because of the way that this team has been building their roster, as I've been talking about all offseason with drafting defense, paying for offense, I think that it's going to be a pretty easy answer for the Chiefs, and maybe I'll be wrong on this, but I would assume they're going to go for Trey Smith over Nick Bolton and Willie Gay because I think they believe that Brett Veach is better. Brett Veach is better at his job than Willie Gay and Nick Bolton are at theirs.
Yeah.
Not that they're not awesome at their job, not that they're not big important pieces, but I think the Chiefs trust Brett Veach in saying, listen, we can replace Willie Gay in the draft. We can replace Nick Bolton in the draft or in free agency or both. Like they did this year where they can go and get guys. They went and drafted Leo Chenal that's a versatile linebacker. We know that it's not a very important position anymore. Middle linebacker is not as important as about every other position on the defensive side of things in today's NFL. So I think that Nick Bolton is the first guy to go out. Then you have Willie Gay. Very effective, very athletically gifted, but he's had availability problems. He's had off-field issues, whether he was guilty or not guilty. I think the Chiefs are looking to probably move on from Willie Gay after this next season, which leads Trey Pancake Papa Smith, who does what? Protects Patrick Mahomes, which is the most important piece to the equation for the Chiefs to win more Super Bowls. Trey Smith is not even entering his prime yet. We know that he has a great camaraderie with Creed Humphrey to the left of him. Whoever the right tackle is going to be, more than likely going to be Juwan Taylor. You're going to want to invest as much as you possibly can into offensive line, and we know that Andy Reid historically has done so, and I think that Trey Smith is going to be a guy that the Chiefs are going to want to keep around for a decade. That's why I'm picking confidently Trey Smith.
Yeah, my pick is Nick Bolton. That's who I personally would want to stick around. But I do agree with you. I think what will happen will be Trey Smith. I think it makes the most sense. But I think I love Nick Bolton, man. Yeah. I don't know what else to say. I love the guy's old school style, but the game is outgrowing that position. So I think it makes the most sense to do whatever you got to do and keep the guys around that consistently protect Patrick Mahomes and are consistently on the field.
Yeah,
and that's a guy like Trey Smith. We do have another question here from Julia Colton again. In your opinion, is Snead on the trading block no matter what happens?
No, I don't think that Snead is now on the trading block. I think 3 or 4 months ago he was. I had him on the trading block. In fact, I said that there was not a guy on this
draft,
defense,
especially
not a guy on this defense outside of Chris Jones that was irreplaceable. I thought that the Chiefs can move off any of these guys. And with the Chiefs, with the draft, the last 2 draft classes they've had, I think they've been telling us that L'Jarius Snead is a guy that they're willing to move off of, even though he's been extremely effective, been very important. We know the Chiefs are 8-1 without him in his career, in particular in the AFC Championship last year, only played 4 snaps, and the Chiefs still out there. Not only one, but guys like Joshua Williams, Jalen Watson, and Brian Cook all had pivotal plays in that game to win that game, shutting Joe Burrow down, picking him off multiple times. I think that L'Jarius Snead is if I'm going off my own belief and theory, this is his final season with the Chiefs. They're going to let him walk as a free agent. I think they would get a comp pick in replace of that, and I think that's how it's going to go. I don't think they can trade him now because this is his final year of his deal. I think that's what's going to end up ultimately happen. I think L'Jarius Snead's going to be gone after the season.
Yeah, I don't think he's on the block, and nor have we seen any signs of them really teasing him, dangling him out there as a carrot in any way. So I don't think that's going to be the case. But I am excited, though, on that note, to possibly get the best out of L'Jarius Snead this season. You know, to quote the late great Therese Paylor, the contract year is undefeated.
Yeah.
And this is a guy that's fighting going to be playing for his next contract, whether it's in Kansas City, which is not likely, but somewhere else, somebody else is going to pay this man.
Right.
He's a beast. He's great.
And let me say this real quick, because I saw Brian, our guy Brian, is saying that only McDuffie is in Snead's class. Flirting with Snead is leaving leaving is a dangerous game. I agree with that, but here's my point in all this, Trevor, is that Brett Veach has shown us in the 5 years, soon to be 6 years as Chiefs GM, what he does at that position. He doesn't overspend there. I mean, the most money, like I said, they've spent at corner was Rashad Breeland for, $2-3 million in 2019. It did help the Chiefs win a Super Bowl, but the point is they got L'Jarius Snead in the 4th round. I think he was, the 138th overall pick?
Yeah.
I think L'Jarius Snead was, he was a flyer. Ended up becoming something very special. My point is that I believe that Brett Veach can go and find another L'Jarius Snead. He might have already done that in getting Chamari Connor. You never know. Chamari Connor might even be an upgrade to Jerry
Profile,
Sneed.
yeah, fits the profile.
These
perfectly.
guys every single year in the NFL, you find guys in the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th rounds.
Yeah.
Because I was just talking about Trey Smith. Trey Smith was a 6th-round pick. The only difference is that Trey Smith plays a position where you can't keep swinging and hoping to keep hitting home runs. Sometimes you have to solidify that position for 7 to 8 years.
Yeah. With
cornerback, Brett Veach has shown that I can just keep that door rotating. And if L'Jarius Sneed is a guy that's going to demand a market and the Chiefs don't want to invest money at the cornerback position, they're going to let him walk. And it's no offense to L'Jarius Sneed, that's just how the business goes because you can't pay everybody. And if the Chiefs know they're paying quarterback, they're paying offensive line, and they're paying wide receivers, they can't pay cornerback. That's how it goes.
Yeah. I don't have any other questions. I think Brian did reply to that. He said, I agree. If we had picked up DK Metcalf, this point would have been moot. We've had repeated misses at cornerback prior to McDuffie. Guys need to avoid 35 and 27 like the plague. Cursed numbers.
He's not wrong about that. But I will say as many misses that they've had at cornerback, they've also had hits.
Yeah, of course.
Because like I said, as it currently stands, it looks like Joshua Williams, Jalen Watson, Trent McDuffie, those guys
and
are
we've
all
let
hits.
some good ones walk, like Marcus Peters, because the personality differences.
And you let Shavarius Ward walk when Shavarius Ward has had really
Got
good
that
seasons
boy
in
paid.
Kansas City, but he was an undrafted player
Right.
that they traded for with Parker Inginger,
Yep.
a backup center. So Brett Veach knows how to wheel and deal, man. He knows how to get these guys, and if you don't have to spend money on a guy and you know you can adequately replace them with a 4th, 5th, 6th-round pick,
Yeah.
then it makes all the sense in the world. That's why I almost nailed that, dude, when I said that in the 4th round, the Chiefs are going to take a corner/defensive back, safety guy, because that's what L'Jarius Sneed was coming out of the draft. He was actually a safety, but he was hybrid. They're going to go and get a guy, and I think they're going to replace L'Jarius Sneed with him. And what do you know? In the 4th round, just a few picks after they had gotten L'Jarius Sneed they go and get Shamari Connor. I think he's going to be that guy that replaces L'Jarius Sneed in 2024.
Makes sense. I actually have a question to kind of change the direction of these questions in line with like just strictly Chiefs stuff. I know you and everyone watching, I'm sure you all saw the Tyreek Hill latest news and debacle that's going on right now. There was an investigation, but I think they closed the investigation, but now that person is pressing charges.
Is he going back to pressing charges?
I believe the person is pressing charges.
Initially they said they weren't, so I didn't know if that changed.
I don't really know the whole situation. It's more about, for me, my question is more about the optics of Tyreek Hill. Obviously, Tyreek Hill finally got his big contract, right? He got paid. And you really tend to see people's true colors once they get that big money. And we've seen a lot of people, people that win the lottery, they end up blowing it on strippers and cocaine or all these crazy things. They end up finding some kind of addiction. And then when they lose it, they become extremely depressed, blah, blah, blah. We've seen how big time money can affect people and alter or, show who they really are, show that their personality. And I'm not. This is not a dig at Tyreek Hill. This is more of just a conversation, to back and forth, if you will. That is this. We saw the comments about Tyreek Hill basically telling that guy on the yacht, "I can buy you and the boat." Comments like that are just that's such a. First of all, it's extremely douchey. It's a douchey thing to say and a very privileged thing to say, and possibly a true color showing situation of Tyreek Hill and who he is. I think, when people come across big money like that, life-changing money and a big contract, it tends to show who you are on a grander scale, right? And I'm not saying that's this case, but optically it shows me that this is Tyreek Hill when behind closed doors you are who you really are, right? He's not on a podcast. He's not, he's not on the field. This is him behind closed doors in his environment, and this is the things he's kind of saying to people, and I just have a problem. And I love Tyreek Hill, man. He's near and dear to my heart, one of my favorite players to ever put on a Chiefs jersey. But this is just wanted to kind of get your ideas or your thoughts on how how you absorb those comments, him saying that to that guy, regardless of what the guy said or did to him. Just those kind of comments coming from someone of his notoriety, of his status, acting like that.
2 years ago, I was told not to say this story, but I feel like now it's okay because he's no longer a Chief, so I can say this. But 2 years ago, I was told a story from a friend who works at a very high-end restaurant in Kansas City, and a lot of Chiefs players go there. And every single story this person, a friend of mine, had said that they were awesome. Good, professional people, very nice to fans that would walk up to them and ask for autographs, even though, technically fans shouldn't be doing that in restaurants. You're supposed to leave people alone. But they were always gracious. And I'm not going to name the other Chiefs players that would go there, but I will name that Tyreek Hill was a Chiefs player that not only went there but gave a different, in fact, the polar opposite experience to a friend of mine that had been working there. My friend presented Tyreek Hill with a steak and put it on his table. And when my friend was walking away, he gave them a number. And they turned around. They didn't understand what that meant. And he said the number again. And they were trying to be very professional, but they still didn't understand what Tyreek Hill was saying. Tyreek Hill eventually said, that's the number basically on the clock. I want you to position my steak on my table for me.
Yeah, 6 o'clock.
I think it was like 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
So does this story shock me, Trevor? No, it doesn't. Because I think that there's probably 100 other stories that we don't know about that didn't get reported because he probably didn't end up assaulting those people.
Right.
Because according to this story, he smacked the dude upside the head. For whatever reason. I think it's because they were on a boat they weren't supposed to be or whatever, and Tyreek thinks he's above the law because, he's got this huge contract like you said. He's the best, one of the best receivers in football. He's
Extremely
in Miami.
wealthy now.
Yeah, he's feeling good about himself. And I'm happy for Tyreek. But this story doesn't shock me. Now, I know that people are going to correlate this with the past that he had. But, see, I'm not going to do that because we all know that's not
scenario.
that's nothing to do with this. So if he's to get suspended for this, it's not going to be attached to anything to do with that. But the problem is that Tyreek Hill already has a patch attached to him, whether it's fair or not. This is the kind of person that might want to keep his shit clean because the league is going to start being a little bit more harsher on a guy like you that has already had rumors and speculation around you and is going to be probably paying close attention to you as well, man. And Tyreek's done himself no favors over these last 2 off seasons. Talked all that shit about the Chiefs, said that Tua is the most accurate quarterback he's ever played with, whether he meant that or not. It really backfired instantaneously because the Chiefs went out there and won a Super Bowl without him, and it looked actually easier
immediately,
without him. So they were actually a better offense without Tyreek, as crazy as that sounds. No, but this story doesn't shock me at all, and it's pathetic. It's egregious. Tyreek Hill is above no one. He's no better than anybody else. Sitting here saying, I can buy you and your boat just tells me, just like I said, like you said, how low this guy thinks of other people that are around him. He has a peasant's mentality when it comes to everybody that's around him. Yeah. And it's pathetic. No one should ever treat anybody differently, no matter what level of financial gain you have. And I think it's really sad to see, man, because this is a guy that at one time was hailed as one of the true great Chiefs. I think people still love him here and would still embrace him, but he's putting himself in a position now where people are going to try to distance themselves from him.
Yeah.
And that's just not anywhere you want to be because one day, Trevor, he will be retired. That speed will be gone. His skill set will diminish, and he's going to need those relationships. I mean, how awesome would it be for Tyreek to be able to come back to Kansas City, put his name in the Ring of Honor, be able to go and bang the drum, be able to go out there and be an honorary whatever for whatever event is going on during the Chiefs season. But unfortunately, he keeps doing these types of things. Clark Hunt and his family, who are very, very tight-knit, classy, professional people, are not going to want that attached to their franchise.
Yeah.
And so I have a hard time believing that Tyreek Hill is seeing that right now, but hopefully he does before it's too late because I still think this is a guy that should be able to come back to Kansas City, be glorified, not be vilified basically, and unfortunately he's pushing himself in that direction. I hate seeing it.
Yeah, well, as a peasant myself, I would like to just have one word of advice for Tyreek Hill. You can make all the money you want, man, but you're not going to be able to take any of that to the grave. But what you can take to your grave is your integrity and your dignity. So, and how you're remembered is the most important thing once you're done, once you're gone. So just remember that. That's Dad's advice for you. Okay. So we got a question from a G Pick on YouTube. I'm going to put that on the screen for you, buddy. It says, "What are the chances Deneric Prince makes the team?" We have discussed this on the show before. And yeah, go for it, man.
Yeah, so first of all, great question, G-Pick. Man, we appreciate you contributing. I don't know if it's a man or a woman. I apologize. So, yeah. G-Pick, we appreciate you. What are the chances Deneric Prince makes the team? I think it's great.
Yeah.
We talked about this last week. If you want to go and revisit our show last week, I brought this up when it came to the running back situation because obviously we know that Isaiah Pacheco is the prohibitive favorite to be running back one until we see anything different. I think that's without question. Jerick McKinnon was brought back for a singular purpose: be productive. Primarily and particularly in the pass game. We know this guy can catch the ball, best of them in the NFL. Seriously, he really can. He's up there with Christian McCaffrey in receiving touchdowns over these last few years. So, we know that those guys have roles. We know that Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to be on this team, and he's probably going to help ease Isaiah Pacheco into the postseason by taking some of the carries and whenever he's available. But we know that Clyde has injury problems, which leaves Deneric Prince. I think there's going to be an opportunity for Deneric Prince to be the Isaiah Pacheco of this year. I know that sounds nuts, but Isaiah Pacheco was a 7th-round running back last year that a lot of people didn't have expectations on.
Yeah.
When I went to training camp that first weekend, I was like, this kid's different. This kid's got opportunity here, man. He's fast as hell, and he runs every single time like it's his last rush of his career. And that dude's talking about stealing a grown man's job. Maybe Deneric doesn't go about it that way, but I'm watching tons of film on this dude. He's even more athletically gifted than Isaiah Pacheco is.
Sure.
So this dude gets a ball in his hands. I think this dude can make some noise, and I think if in the preseason you see him get some opportunities with the second and third teams, he goes up and does some things, you could see him potentially get a shot even over Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I don't think it's crazy to think that. So I do have a good feeling about Deneric Prince making this roster. I think at worst he's on the practice squad, but either way, I think the Chiefs see something special in this kid. I talked to my guy Marcus Dash over the Chief Concerns podcast, says the same thing.
Yeah.
I feel great about this guy, and I think the Prince can be fresh for this team.
Yeah, I like it. And just to hark back on the Dalvin Cook take, this is another reason why I don't think that move makes too much sense for this team. I think that, with guys like Deneric Prince and all the hype he's been getting, and typically when in Chiefs camp, when there's hype behind a guy, especially running backs, there tends to be a lot of flames to that smoke, right? So I haven't watched too much of his tape, and I've just been hearing the rumblings and things about once camp really gets going, I'm sure it's gonna probably just be electric with him. What we're going to hear out of it. But I mean, crazier things that happen. Like what you said, just last season we had a 7th round running back go be the guy in the second half of the season and go score and help us contribute to winning a Super Bowl. You know what I mean? A 7th round rookie running back. So the kid's got the gifts. The kid's got the best opportunity any running back could have landing on this team and this roster, the best team in football with the best quarterback and head coach in football. I mean, if anybody's going to have an opportunity to make something of himself, it's Deneric Prince. And listen, I hope he becomes the RB1. If he's the best running back on this roster, I want him running the ball more than anyone else. That's how that's my approach for every position on the Chiefs. I want the best guy with getting the most opportunities. Period. So if this kid becomes the guy, I'm all for it, man. I don't care what number, I don't care what name is on the back of the jersey. I want the best at giving us the best odds to winning every single game, every single week.
Because to that point, what I was talking about last week about how we've embraced Isaiah Pacheco here in Kansas City.
Yeah.
You have to understand, though, that running backs in today's NFL don't last long, man. If you're
We just got
especially
done
a guy like
discussing
him
the evolution of
that
the
runs
position.
so violently, that runs so hard, takes massive hits, you guys better be prepared to have Isaiah Pacheco for 3 or 4 years tops.
Of course.
And I don't think the Chiefs will re-sign him. So you better enjoy what you got right now in Isaiah Pacheco. He'll be 24 years old this year. It's not old, but it's not young anymore either at running back positions. His usage isn't going to be as high this year, I don't anticipate. I think the Chiefs are going to really work him into the season and then to the postseason, and they let him be all juiced up and ready for the postseason because the Chiefs are that much better offensively with the healthy and rested Isaiah Pacheco than the other way around.
Possibly even better, too.
But if Deneric Prince can step in, then all of a sudden Isaiah Pacheco can become a guy that has to fight for his position as well. Because like you said, Trevor, the running back position is wide open in Kansas City.
Right.
It's a constant fight. Right now, Pacheco's got it won because he's proven himself and he's the most talented running back on the team. But Deneric Prince comes in here and does the same thing that Pacheco does next season. Pacheco could be the one that's fighting for his job that he just stole a year ago.
For sure. We do have another question from our guy, Brian. Does Justin Reed actually have the skills to absolutely dominate the secondary? The social media garbage makes him look like a fraud. Killers don't make noise.
Justin Reed is not a dominant player by any means. Justin Reed is a strong addition, veteran-wise. He was an upgrade from what Tyrann Mathieu was at that point of his career when the Chiefs moved on, because Tyrann Mathieu was 30 years old. He was undersized, and he was making business decisions. Justin Reed wanted to prove himself as a winner. He wanted to go to a team he could win Super Bowl with and prove he could roll. He did. Justin Reed by no means, though, is a dominant player. He's a guy that if the Chiefs we found out today were going to replace him, I wouldn't lose any sleep over it. I think he's a good piece, but he's not a guy that you can't win without.
Yeah.
Even though, like I said, he was an upgrade from what the Chiefs formerly had at safety. Safeties, to me, you can use almost like running backs where you can rotate them out, but if you find a special one, you got to hold on to him. But he's not special. In regards to the social media stuff, I 100% agree with our guy Brian, because something that I do respect in players is when they can take criticism. But as much as I respect guys that can take criticism, I equally don't respect guys that can't. And Justin is one of those guys. Not to defend myself here by any means, but if anybody knows me on Twitter, I am very fair in my criticisms with players. I will tell you exactly how I feel you've done or haven't done, and I will never go personal. I'll never say attack your family. I'll never say anything stupid. I'll always keep it on the field. And it was after that Bengals game when Justin Reed opened his mouth, I defended him and said that if anybody was going to do it, it needs to be a guy like Justin Reed because he's a leader on this team. He needs to go out there and back it up. He didn't back up any of it. He got destroyed, and Joe Burrow went out there and made sure of it. He was getting his head bounced off the freaking field like a basketball. I said that on Twitter, and then he blocks me. That shows me that he's got rabbit ears. He's sensitive. He's soft. Keep helping this team win Super Bowls. I appreciate that. I don't think Justin Reed is long for the team. I don't think he's going to be here past 2023. Maybe 2024 he might be on the team. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think he's a rental, and I think he's doing his job. I appreciate what he's doing to keep helping the team win. But yeah, I think he's very sensitive. I think he's very soft and borderline fraudulent when it comes to his social media presence.
Yeah, I mean, who you are on the field and who you are on social media are two different things. Obviously, that was proven with him. When I think of Justin Reed, I don't think of dominant. I think of appropriate. I think he's an appropriate player on this defense. I think he's a very smart individual. We've seen him. He's a chess player. He's a whiz. He has a high IQ. He's one of those guys I think is appropriate for this defense, though. I think he's a guy that is as a good leader. I think he's a good morale guy. So I do not think he's a dominant player. I think guys like Brian Cook, I think, are looming in the mist that could become that guy. I think he's a heavy hitter. I do think Justin Reed has dominant performances in him. He is. You go watch his film, even with the Texans. That dude could lay the wood, but he does get burnt a little too much in coverage, and he's sometimes in the wrong place at the right time, if you will. So I'm not the biggest Justin Reed fan, but I do appreciate what he has contributed at times on this defense. We got another question here from Trish. Appreciate these questions, guys. This has been the most interactive, I think, show we've ever had. Trish says, will the Chiefs bring Carlos Dunlap back or any other veteran pass rusher, or are the Chiefs okay with where they stand as is for defensive end?
This is another reason why, Trish, and we talked about this early on the show. I've been saying it for the last few episodes. Another major reason why this Chris Jones extension has to happen, because this is going to open up $16 to $20 million in cap space, which is obviously Trevor and I are on the side that we got to go get the Chiefs got to go sign D-Hop immediately after giving Chris Jones his extension. But as I've said on this show today, and I've said on other shows, this team does need more veteran presence at edge rush. Carlos Dunlap, although wasn't a world beater last year, played his role, and that was with Frank Clark in position. Yeah. Now both those guys are gone right now. I do believe the Chiefs are in conversations with Carlos Dunlap. I think Carlos Dunlap is definitely mulling it over. Does he have the same motivation? No, probably not, because he was wanting to get a Super Bowl. He was wanting to get that 100 sack. He was wanting to get a chance to do what he did, and he got all of it. So maybe he is done. He'll be 34 years old this year. Maybe he just doesn't have that drive, which leads Yannick Ngakoue, Justin Houston. There's still names out there the Chiefs can go and get that can be veteran presence guys that can be effective third down rotational piece edge rushers. Add that depth around George Karlaftis. Add that depth around FAU. Let B.J. Thompson and younger guys like that kind of work their way into this defense in 2024 and 2025, not so much in 2023. You add a Yannick Ngakoue. You add a Carlos Dunlap. You add a Justin Houston at a low premium, by the way. They're not going to have to go and spend, $8, $9, $10 million on those guys. You're getting those guys for anywhere from $2 to $5 million tops. Because we're at in the offseason right now, you know that if these guys are playing, they're playing to win. Right. They're not trying to rack up cash. Obviously, they would love to, but they know that's not realistic on a contender at their ages. So that's what you're going to see happen. I almost guarantee you'll see a Dunlap or a guy of that ilk on this roster by September.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you anymore. Couldn't have said it better myself, man. We do have another question here from Julia Colton. Seen some picks made by Nick Jones in OTAs. Opinions on this kid?
I like this guy because he's a flyer guy, but when I was talking about L'Jarius Sneed being a guy that the Chiefs found later in the draft and ended up becoming a very prominent figure, I'm not saying Nick Jones is going to become that, but would it honestly shock anybody if Nick Jones becomes a nice rotational corner on this defense?
I feel that way about every pick in this draft.
That's what I'm saying, man. Even though this was a top-heavy draft,
man,
the picks the Chiefs took, even Wanya Morris and guys like that can find themselves in a starting position if things go bad. You have that guy sitting there.
Thompson.
Nick Jones is going to be at best probably a special teamer this year if he makes the roster. Which I do expect though.
Because and it's OTAs.
Well, and because of the fact that Najee Johnson, Deion Bush, Deion Bush was brought back for one more year. He'll play some special teams, and Najee Johnson's going to get his chance as well. So Nick Jones is going to be fighting with those two guys, and I love that because that's only going to sharpen those guys up, and it's going to make whoever wins that job that much better. But I like Nick Jones, and you're right. The OTAs has been shining bright. He's been one of the biggest shining pieces of the entire OTAs from guys that are not getting any expectations really thrown to them. So I think that Nick Jones has an inside track chance of making the roster. He will be a special teamer this year, but make no mistake about it. Injuries happen every single year. If a guy like Nick Jones, replaces Joshua Williams or Jalen Watson for a few games, he can end up being one of those kind of guys for a spill. Then all of a sudden you have that much more depth at those positions. Chamari Connor gets injured, or Mike Edwards gets injured. They want to move those guys around to safety and play around. Spags can do so many things with these young guys, and I'm very excited about that. Nick Jones can very well find himself as a piece to the equation.
Yeah, I love it, man. I love seeing these young guys thrive in OTAs, getting their chance to shine, and they're taking advantage of it season to day. We don't have any other questions at the moment, but yeah, man, this has been great.
Yeah.
I love seeing all these comments and interactions. Oh, I think we did just get another question from our guy Brian. Let's see. Will Kennard? I like this one. Will Kennard take some live regular season snaps this year, or are we going to straight to the new guys?
Well, first of all, thank you for asking about my guy Darian Kennard, because
Yeah.
I'm big on him. I would love to see him get a chance to play for this team. Unfortunately, I think the only way Darian Kennard is going to get a chance to really play this season if there's an injury, primarily to like Trey Smith or Jawan Taylor at right tackle, because those are the two positions that I think Darian Kennard is set to play, either right guard or right tackle. That's his strength. So that's the only way I think my guy will play. But I will say this: if Trey Smith was to go down with an injury, or Jawan Taylor was to go down with an injury, I'm not going to sit here and say that he would play to their level, but it wouldn't shock me if Darian Kennard played those positions fine, because I know what that guy was at Kentucky.
Yeah, man.
My guy Jason Dunn at Chief Concerns knows him. He watched him very closely at Kentucky.
Man. Yeah.
That guy was the best right tackle in his conference that year. So I like that. I like Lucas Niang being a backup. Like this offensive line on the right side in particular is very deep.
Oh, man, yeah.
I am concerned
Athletic,
about left
too.
tackle. I am concerned about the left side, because outside of Joe Tooney, I guess, has Nick Allegretti that can fill in for him if he gets injured. But that left side, I'm very worried about. But that right side, I'm not worried at all. As crazy as that sounds, because the Chiefs lost Mitchell Schwartz, haven't really found that guy to bring him back. Then they lose Andrew Wiley, who played very well in the Super Bowl, was a very replacement level player. I think now, if Jawan Taylor is the right tackle, the Chiefs are shored up at right tackle, and Trey Smith is obviously shored up right tackle. But if they were to go down with injury, I like Kennard. I like Lucas Niang. I think those guys could step in and play at a respectable level, enough to protect Patrick Mahomes and help the Chiefs continue to win games.
Yeah, and this goes back to my take, the way I view everything. If he's the best guy for the job, I sure as shit hope he is taking regular season snaps. Right?
Yeah.
If he deserves to be out there, put him out there. But it really depends on how you see Kennard. I like him a lot. I think he has a lot of upside, a lot of potential. I think there was a lot of technique issues that he was dealing with last season, which is why he didn't sniff the field. But once he gets his technique and his muscle memory and his mechanics down, and I think he has the body for it. He has the athleticism for it. The kid's a force. He's huge. And quick on his feet. I just think he needs to get his technique down. And I don't know, who knows what they're doing with him, what they're trying to, maybe get him work on the left side a little more. Maybe who knows what's really going on behind the scenes. It depends on how you look at him, though. Because for some people, if he gets snaps in the regular season, that could be a bad thing for some people, because some people don't believe in him, don't like the prospect of what he is. But me and Lance, I think we agree that we both like him and what he can possibly become, and the upside that is possibly there. He could be a guy that just fizzles out and never actually plays for this team. That's also an outcome that is possible as well. So I hope he gets the chance, though. I do like him. That's my personal opinion. Trish, another question here. What do you guys think of Drew Tranquil pickup? I believe it was a sneaky good one.
Oh, Trish, you're 100%
Bro,
correct.
yeah. We're on the train.
Look, that signing, there's not a single negative aspect to it. You got him on a 1
That's a
year,
win-win, yeah.
$5 million deal. I think less than half of that was guaranteed. Like, you get a athletic freak at 28 years old from a divisional foe, who, by the way, played very well against the Chiefs in the time he's played against the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Can play 3 different positions practically. He's everything that the Chiefs didn't get out of Nick Bolton. He's a pass protecting linebacker. He's a guy that can also stuff the run. He's also a guy that can go after the quarterback. He does a lot of things.
He's a do-it-all guy.
He's a Spags guy.
Yeah.
He's a Spags guy. And he's a super charitable human being, just to throw that in there.
Yeah.
I've seen some of his Instagram posts and Twitter stuff.
He doesn't want to buy people on their boats.
He's a salt of the earth human being, man.
Yeah.
So everything about this signing is incredible. It's a prove-it deal for him. Whether he stays in Kansas City after this season or goes elsewhere, I mean, it works out for both sides. So I love the addition of Drew Tranquill. I was always a fan of his with the Chargers. I actually hated seeing him because the guy always played so well.
He
against
made
the
plays
Chiefs.
against us a lot.
Taking him from a divisional foe and bringing him to your roster, that's a double positive. I love it. I think it's an awesome sign. I agree with you completely.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was my favorite offseason acquisition as far as free agents so far. I think his skill set fits into a need that we needed. Honestly, we needed that other versatile guy. He's kind of what I wanted. What was his name? Dorian O'Daniel.
Yeah,
a similar player.
Yeah,
He was a little bit smaller than Tranquill. Tranquill's a little bit bigger, but obviously Tranquill's much better. But Dorian O'Daniel is that kind of similar, prototypical, kind of do-it-all, kind of Swiss Army guy. In theory, is what he was supposed to be. Yeah. But I think that's who Drew Tranquill is, and I love his skill set. I love bringing him over from the Chargers as well. It just makes that much of a more of a sweet move. But I think he's going to fit right. I think he's actually going to have a lot of playing time this year. I think he's going to be a guy that's going to be on the field a lot. I think he's going to earn the trust of Spags in this defense really, really quickly. And he's a guy that's been around. He's been a part of a good defensive scheme. Say what you want about the Chargers, but they have had a lot of great, bright minds on the defense on that side over there for a while. They just continue to falter offensively in a lot of ways.
That's going to ignite Leo Chenal, too, because now Leo Chenal's taking a backseat to Tranquill.
Sure.
This is supposed to be year 2 for Chenal to step up and maybe become a presence on this defense.
Or it could be really good for him.
That's what I'm saying. It's going to motivate him.
Yeah,
It's going to really motivate Chenal to play at his best, because who's to say if Chenal goes out there in training camp and just busts ass and starts killing it, then you're like, hey, man, him and Tranquill are going to have to start splitting reps because they're both balling, man. Like, hey, maybe we'll move over him, maybe move over there to Willie Gay's side, and then we don't have to pay Willie Gay at that point because Leo Chenal took a huge step. Things like that start to happen where it's a blessing in disguise for the defense when you have that type of depth.
Sure. So we got Brian Parrott had another question. If we had landed Harrison, what other areas would we be spending all this wasted effort on? And he followed that up with safety and corner is what I want to hear.
Harrison.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Which Harrison are we talking? I don't know which Harrison we're talking about.
I'm not sure exactly either, but I just wanted to throw it out there because I'm not sure what he was hinting at. Brian, if you could get back with us on that, man, what you actually meant Harrison, I'm not sure. Was that somebody in the draft? I'm not even sure what he was actually trying to get at there. But listen, man. I
do agree with his other comment, though, that Tranquill is my answer to Honey Badger, Gay, and Reed. I do agree with that.
That's why I think he was my favorite addition from the free agent moves in the 1-year rental.
Anton Harrison.
I gotcha. Okay.
It's the offensive tackle, Anton Harrison, I believe, right? If that's So Anton Harrison, if they would, I told everybody from the beginning that the offensive tackle position was not somewhere the Chiefs were going to go in the draft because of the fact that this was just not a draft class that was loaded with it.
At least not that early, yeah.
Yeah, even though it was a position of need for the Chiefs, those guys weren't sitting there, especially later in the first round like that. And that's just not somewhere I thought the Chiefs were going to go. I thought they were going to continue to add to the defense, which they clearly did. Yep. But if that was the case, if the Chiefs were to go that way, I would say that safety would probably be a place the Chiefs would go. But here's the other problem. This is also a draft class that didn't have a lot of safety depth either. It was not a position where, if you look at it, a lot of safeties weren't taken early in the draft. I think the Chiefs would have probably exercised a little bit more on the offensive side, and they would have doubled down because of the fact that they would have been like, look, if we're going to go offensive tackle, we better still go wide receiver in the second round. We better still get our guys. But I still think that cornerback would have been somewhere the Chiefs would have continued to go because of the fact that although Joshua Williams and Jalen Watson look to be guys you can rely on, we've also seen guys in the past like Phillip Gaines that had really good early debuts and ended up becoming trash. Mm-hmm. Who's to say those guys don't become, at least one of them doesn't start to take a step back and maybe not be as good as they initially looked once the offenses start to figure them out a little bit and understand their tendencies. All I'm going to say, though, is I'm glad the Chiefs went the route they did because the fact that you're continuing to facilitate a defense and like our friend Trish said, give Mahomes a top 10 defense that makes the Chiefs unstoppable. 100% agree with you, Trish, because the Chiefs win 99% of the games that their defense in the Mahomes era holds their opponents to less than 27 points. So it's 53-3. So when they hold their opponents to less than 27 points, they win pretty much every single time.
The odds are in our favor if we figure that out. But yeah, I do agree. Just to add to that too, what you said about if we did go Anton Harrison early or move up to get him or whatever, we took him there in our first couple picks or so on and so forth. I think adding because we talked about what depth did we need on this roster? And we talked about, outside of Chris Jones, who was really backing him up, and the internal defensive line. I think we probably would have went that route. I think if we took a opposite lineman, just add to the trenches on the opposite side, and add some depth to that position behind Chris Jones, just in case he did go down or something like that. It did happen. Having that security is a huge thing. So I think that might have been the way we went.
And I want to say this to Brian, because he seems like we're loading linemen after missing trading up to 26 where Harrison was available. Dallas could. I agree with you. Here's the problem. Dallas and Cincinnati were not willing to trade up with the back Chiefs. We're trying to get there, and who's to say that they wouldn't have done it? Yeah. The point, though, I'm trying to – and I don't think they were. I think they were still going to go defensive edge. I think they were going to still go for an edge, and I think it was going to be out of Clemson. His name escapes me, but I think they were going to go his route as opposed to FAU. But, yeah, I think if the Chiefs would have been able to trade up, they would have been able to do a little bit more with what they wanted to do and get a better player. And they are overloading on linemen, but here's the thing. That's a good problem to have. When you can overload on on trenches on both sides.
The game is won in the trenches,
Yes,
man.
exactly. You're adding depth, and that's why I said that my concern is defensive tackle depth, because they don't really have that right now. I'd love to see the Chiefs overlap on that, and if Keandre Coburn becomes something, then all of a sudden that eases things up a little bit.
Well, especially losing guys like Colin Saunders and very athletic guys that were gifted and made big plays even in the Super Bowl. You losing depth pieces like that. That's me, man. That's how I am in the draft, bro. I think we can always find diamond in the rough skill players. I'm all about that, and then taking the best guys at getting after the quarterback and protecting the quarterback. That's how you win in football, man. So
100% agree, guys. We appreciate the chat so much. You guys can keep this going. We're gonna we promise we'll get to you guys off air as much as we possibly can throughout the week. Brian's been one of our most prominent figures when it comes to comments. We appreciate you, bro, so much, and I know that you brought a lot of people over, because I see in the comments that it's a lot of the people that are in our chat today are from All Chiefed Up, our friends over there.
Shout out.
They're also brothers as well, like us, Trevor and I. We appreciate you guys. We love you guys as well. The Spoken welcomes you guys to the family, and we appreciate you taking time to be with us as well, because our guys at All Chiefed Up are friends of ours as well. I've been on their show with them. Love those guys to death, and we appreciate you guys coming with us. We have one more order of business to get to, Trevor. What is it called?
Hold this L.
Each and every episode, we finish off each and every episode with a series of L's in the world of sports. Whether those L's in the world of sports are friendly L's or not so friendly L's in the world of sports, we promise you, who is ever holding those L's in the world of sports deserve those L's in the world of sports. Trevor Twidwell, who's holding the L for you this week?
Listen, man, I love me a fake Twitter handle, that fools the talking heads on live TV, and these are always a treat, right? Because it doesn't matter who it is. We've seen the biggest of names get fooled. It doesn't matter. This week's victim was one Kendrick Perkins on SportsCenter when they were discussing the Draymond news about Draymond opting out of his option, and the Jordan Poole move, Chris Paul addition. So on and so forth. They were discussing that on SportsCenter, and while discussing the Warriors roster and who could maybe be a next guy to step up, the name of Jonathan Kuminga, who's been a project for the Warriors and a solid young player for them, an up and coming guy for them possibly. There was a fake Twitter rumor mill going around that Jonathan Kuminga, who did get drafted at 19 and is now I think 21, 22. Had a massive growth spurt over this past offseason and has went from 6'7" to 7'2". And I just want to play this clip for you guys so you guys can hear yourself. Oh, hold on one second. Let me get my volume up. Yeah.
Complaceable, huh, Joe?
He's complaceable.
They got complaceable.
I mean, yeah, you got guys growing 6-7 inches, in an offseason. That's incredible. You know what I mean? But, yeah, listen, dude. And I love Perk. The guy is always entertaining. One of the most entertaining guys in this field. But, man, as I'm seeing reports, Jonathan Kuminga, who's now 7'2", like, bro, you really believed he went from 6'7" to 7'2" in an offseason? He just had a random growth spurt at 21. You're like, come on, I know crazy things happen, but don't just believe everything you see. And it wasn't even like a fake like a fake like blue check, a spoof account or anything like that. It's just like, bro, he just read that on Twitter and just spouted it off on live TV as a professional. Oh man, another victim. I mean, we've seen, like I said, we've seen the biggest of names get victimized by these things. I mean, Barry McCockiner he's had many victims across the sports world. So for that, Kendrick Perkins, my guy, love you, but you got to do me a solid here and hold this L.
Oh, man, thank you for bringing that one. Because I was actually going to bring that one up, too, if you didn't do it.
That's
So I'm glad
funny,
you did
bro.
it. I actually want to give a W first and foremost. This is going to blow somebody's minds, some people's minds, because I'm actually going to bring up baseball for a second. I'm going to give a W to the Cincinnati Reds. If anybody hasn't been paying attention, which I don't blame you if you're not, but the Cincinnati Reds are currently on a 12-game winning streak. And this is their first winning streak of that many games in 66 years.
Wow.
So the Cincinnati Reds are getting their fan base pumped up, ready to go for a potential postseason run, which I did not envision at all. But it's also with two people that are pioneering and leading the way here for the Cincinnati Reds, and they're at complete opposite ends of their career. Trevor, I know you remember him because he was playing when I was graduating high school. He was a rookie, and he's played his career dominantly over the last 15, 16 years, and that is Joey Votto.
Of course.
Joey Votto, who's 39 years old, hit 2 home runs last night for the Reds. He was injured at the beginning of the season, came back, and has been crushing the ball. 39 years old, still doing it. Yep. But then their 21-year-old freak superstar in the making, Ellie De La Cruz. This kid, if you've not watched him play baseball yet, like you're looking at a guy that is going to put himself in the Hall of Fame. Like I know that sounds crazy to say, but our guy Joey Votto, who's been playing the game for almost 20 years now, was literally saying in the post-game interview that he can't think of a guy that's a better switch hitter, power/speeds guy since Mickey Mantle. Like that's how skilled and gifted Ellie De La Cruz is. This kid's huge, freak athlete, got a gun for an arm, can run the bases like an absolute cheetah. I mean, it can hit the ball all aspects of the field. Hit a cycle last night. It was his 15th game of his career.
Wow.
The third quickest to ever hit a cycle. And the best part was he hit the triple to get the cycle. That was his last hit. You know how hard that shit is to do?
Oh man.
That's the hardest one to do, and that was his final hit, the 4th hit. So for this kid to do what he's doing,
crazy.
For Joey Votto to be damn near 40 years old, still out there playing a prominent role on a team that's winning a bunch of games in a row, man, I'm giving a dub to the Cincinnati Reds out there. Shout out to them for what they're doing.
Oh yeah,
I love it, and I love when these old franchises start to have these they rise up. It almost feels like the Jon Snow scene with the White Walkers, like they're just coming from the dead, like the Reds, who haven't been great in forever, finally doing something awesome, man. But my L, and I just had it up, and I feel really bad for not having it up now. Oh God, where did it go? Now I'm dying over here on live.
Who's your victim? We do have another question ready to go to whenever you're done with your L, so we'll get to our guy Bumpa BB here in a second.
Oh hell yeah! See, this is what I'm talking about. You guys have been crushing some questions.
I'm not gonna lie. This might be my favorite episode yet. I'm gonna expect this every single week.
So my L, and I want to get to the question first. Actually, I'll hold my L. Let's get to the question because I want to honor this. Okay. I'm going with the question. This will be our question of the day.
Okay, so this is from Bumpa B on YouTube. He's getting a little ahead of himself, but I like it. Talking about next year's draft. He said, Do you think we are drafting a franchise left tackle next draft? Thinking ahead here.
God, I fucking hope. I really hope. You guys know that I'm not even going to try to pretend like I wasn't. I was the biggest Orlando Brown Jr. fan and defender because I knew how important he was to this team moving forward and how important the Chiefs viewed him by trading for him,
yeah.
and giving up what they gave up, which was a first-round pick to get him, and swapped picks, which ended up working out for the Chiefs because they got Nick Bolton in replacement with that swap pick was the 58th overall. I hope so.
Yeah.
And next year's draft class is supposed to be much better with tackles. So this might work out for the Chiefs. Even if the Chiefs have the 30th, 31st, 32nd overall pick, they can very well still find their guy, and they can be aggressive because they have double-digit picks next year. They can trade up and try to get deeper into the first round and try to get a guy at 15th, 16th overall, which you find all the time. You find franchise left tackles in the first 20 picks. I definitely think that. Yeah, you're way ahead, but I actually think that's a fair question.
Sure.
Because the Chiefs do not have that guy laying in wait.
Yeah.
There's nobody on on this team right now that looks like he's the left tackle of the future?
Donovan Smith is not the long-term answer. Yes,
that's
correct.
a very fair question to ask. I mean, shit, he was a free agent in March. The Chiefs picked him up in middle of May.
Yeah.
So that should tell you how much the league looks at Donovan Smith as a surefire left tackle. So the Chiefs have to answer that. Juwan Taylor will be on this team for at least 3 more years. I think he's going to be the right tackle as it currently stands. He'll probably stay there because I do think the Chiefs have every intention in mind to go get that guy in the 2024 draft and get a left tackle. That's where I stand right now. I'm not giving an official prediction because we're about 10 months away from that happening.
Right.
But I do think that's where they're probably gunning for. Yeah, for sure.
I'm going to say yes. I think we do. I think we need to. I think it's a must, and I think the Chiefs know that. I mean, you never want to force an idea. You never want to go into a draft with a set idea of what you're going to do because things move, things change. You gotta roll with the punches. But I do think being aggressive, moving up and trying to get our guy, the guy that we want next year at that position, makes the most sense. You can get him obviously on a rookie deal. If he can come in and be a stud day one and be a day one starter contributor, that's what you want. That's ideal. If you want to keep this dynastic run alive, of course that's what you want. Donovan Smith is not the answer. Juwan Taylor, if we don't if we don't do that in this next draft, then I'm expecting Juwan Taylor to be converted to left tackle at some point because he's getting paid handsomely. He's a talented guy, can be a swing tackle, has it within him, and I think he's capable of doing that. But if we keep him at right tackle, I 100% am sold on the idea of taking a franchise left tackle, or at least attempting to getting that guy. So I think that makes the most sense, yeah.
Great question, and that was from our guy, Bumpa _BB.
Yep.
Appreciate it, man. Keep those going. We appreciate you, man, and appreciate everybody. My God, it's been a great day in the chat.
Love it.
Keep those going, guys. Come back to us next week when we do this. I don't even care. If you guys are flooding the comments, I'll stop everything I'm talking about and get to you guys because that's what we want to do here. We want to be interactive as hell. That is what we've been doing here for the last few weeks.
Especially on the YouTube, especially on the YouTube side of things, and it's been great on the YouTube side of things. So if you guys, even that are watching on Twitter or Facebook or wherever you're watching it, or even if you're watching this back and not even watching it live, just get on the YouTube side of things, man. That's where it's the easiest for us to interact, and it's the most smooth over there.
Yeah, so we 100% agree. And hit the subscribe button, join the family. Whether you've been watching All Chiefed Up, Chief Concerns, or any of our other Starcade Media family, wherever you're coming from, hang out with us, man. Every Saturday we do the show at 11 o'clock. I don't think any of those other shows are doing that, so we're not stepping on toes. You want to come and hang out with us for a little bit and go right back to your shows that you're loyal to. We'd love to be a part of your rotation, your weekly rotation, because we know that a lot of you are dedicated to Chiefs content and other shows, and I respect that. I listen to other Chiefs shows.
Yep.
I listen to Charles Goldman talk on Chiefs Wire. Obviously we're huge friends and family with Chief Concerns. We all Chiefed Up. All these shows, man. There's tons of awesome content out there, and we appreciate you for picking us in this certain time and certain place. I need to give you guys my L, though. I mean, that has to happen. That has to happen.
Go.
And it's going to go to a guy that I appreciate and respect and love and have admired for many, many years watching him play basketball, and that is to Damian Lillard. Damian Lillard has put himself in a position where he thinks his loyalty is going to be rewarded, and it's not. He is hitched his wagon to the Portland Trail Blazers, which I do understand. It's the team that drafted him. It's the team he's played his whole career with. And I know that back in the 90s, everyone thought that was admirable and, that's the way to do it. And even our guy Giannis Antetokounmpo thinks you won the right way when he said that to Dwayne Wade, even though Dwayne Wade needed to win 2 of his 3 championships with LeBron James leading the way. But Damian Lillard has really hitched his wagon to this idea that playing for one team or staying loyal is the smart way to go about it. So much so that as I've been telling you guys and other people have been telling you guys that these teams will never express the same loyalty to you, the Blazers literally just proved that. You know why? They went and drafted Scoot, who plays the same damn position that Damian Lillard plays.
Great pick, by the way.
Could they make it work? Yes, they can make this work. But it reminds me a lot of like the Monte Ellis, Stephen Curry situation. Remember when Steph came in, Monte was already there, and then they had to move off Monte. Well, here's the problem now. 2 years ago, Damian Lillard could have been traded to a prominent team, could have won at least a championship or 2. Still could have happened before this draft. Now, it looks like he's not going anywhere because according to their GM, he's not moving. They've halted all trade talks for Damian Lillard, which means he's going to be on another bad team for another year, and until he's 34 years old, we won't even revisit this conversation. I don't think Damian Lillard's ever winning a championship, and I hate to say this, Trevor, and I know this sounds evil for me to say. I'm kind of hoping he doesn't now because guys like him need to be an example. Guys like Charles Barkley, who luckily for Charles is entertaining as hell, so he had a second career. But let's say Charles was just a Kawhi Leonard type. We'd only know him as, oh yeah, he was a good player, never won a damn thing. Or you can be like Karl Malone, just creepy as shit and never won shit. Is that how you want to be remembered, or do you want to be a champion? I know that championships shouldn't define players, but we live in a world where if you're going to be considered a great, you have to have at least some success. That's why Joel Embiid has so much pressure on him, because he's never made it to a conference championship.
Yeah.
He's 29 years old.
Do you play or do you play to win? Yeah.
And it's starting to look like Damian Lillard might be okay with not winning anything.
Right.
Maybe he is that kind of guy, and that, to me, that hurts his legacy, because I want to view guys as guys that want to go after it all. I want to win it every single year. I want to be that guy. Now, you can be great and still not care, but is that how Damian Lillard wants to be remembered as?
It would be bought, not earned, Lance.
I mean, give me a freaking break, man. We can go down the list. I mean, Chicago Bulls dynasty had guys they would have picked off from the Euro leagues to Ron Harper from the Clippers to all these different places.
Why would you want it to be fair?
My guy Damian Lillard, I love watching you play, bro. You're one of the best point guards I've ever seen play
Especially
this.
His story,
play this sport,
coming from
man.
where he was drafted, what school he went to.
But
he was in a big.
You've not put yourself in a position where you demand more, demand better. Yeah. You've given the Blazers everything you've gotten, and what have they given you in return? Do me a solid, brother, and hold this L.
I will say though, the recently developments of on Instagram, there was Damian Lillard was on IG Live playing "I'm Going to Miami" in the background, and then Jimmy Butler was on IG Live playing some Dame Dalla tracks in the back.
Kids that are watching this that are under 18, close your eyes for a second. Are you guys done? Okay. That's what I think about that. There's no way in hell he's going anywhere. Yeah. It's over. We thought about this last year and the year before. It's not happening. It's not happening. If it was going to happen, it would happen before the draft. You're going to tell me right now that a team's going to wait till after the draft to trade for Damian Lillard? What sense does that make for them? It doesn't. It doesn't make any sense.
No.
So maybe I'll be shocked, and then I'll hold the L. I'll make a deal like that. If Damian Lillard ends up getting traded, Trevor, I'm holding the L. Sounds good? All right, sounds good.
Deal.
Guys, this has been a freaking fun show. It's been one of the funnest shows we've had this year, and we really do appreciate it, guys. And before I get to all my congratulatories and thanks and all that stuff, I do want to make an official announcement here for the show that I have not done over the last couple of weeks that I feel bad about, because we have had a ton of questions about it. A lot of people have been asking where our guy Eddie Ortiz has been over these last few weeks. It is no mystery, and I want to clarify it. First and foremost, Eddie was one of the foundational pieces, the founding fathers, if you will, of the Spoken podcast. He's been with us since day one of the show. Him and I worked together, and we talked about it. Man, I see that you have a Facebook page. You do stuff on Twitter. Let's get this podcast going. He was the one that really wanted to push that in that direction, and we did it. And it's been nothing but fun. We've loved it. Eddie's been a part of at least 170, 180 episodes of what we've done here. The thing about life, though, man, sometimes that either present themselves later on or consistently throughout it that become more of a priority. And Eddie is a very busy guy with his family. He's very involved with his family. He's got a lot of things going on his family side of things that he has to be committed to. And that has been something that's been kind of pushing and pulling rather, when it comes to his availability for our show, because Saturdays are usually days that people spend time with their families. And Trevor and I luckily have a situation where we are each other's family, so this is us hanging out. Eddie has a family that he's very committed to, and they have a lot of things going on the weekends. And we decided that is what's best for our show and what's best for him is that we don't have this weird situation where we don't know if we're going to have our guy or not. We're just going to let him go and do what he needs to do with his family, dedicate that time to them. We've had great conversations. Eddie and Trevor and I are all still great friends. We all talk every single day. There's no bad blood. Eddie's still a big-time supporter of the Spoken podcast. He's always welcome to be a part of what we do, but we know that this is where Eddie's mind is, where his mind and heart is at, and I didn't want him to think that Trevor and I were going to be upset with him for wanting to dedicate himself to those things. So I wanted to clarify that, let you guys know right now, and for the foreseeable future, as it is currently constructed, is Trevor and I going to be hosting the show every single week. It's going to be us two. Maybe we'll add somebody to the equation later on, but as it stands, I hope you guys are happy with this, because this obviously pushed us in a direction where we wanted to include you even more so. Yeah. We had the Eddie Hour where Eddie would ask questions, things like that, but full transparency, we wanted to be more interactive with you guys as well. So this is a blessing in disguise in some regard, to where we can now add you guys as essentially as that third member of the show. So if you guys want to, this is why it's so big to us that you guys become a part of it, because now we have a hole to fill. Eddie was an important piece to our show. We loved having him here. We love the guy, but now that he's gone, we need you more, even more so than before. So we really appreciate you guys and hope you guys understand. If you guys know Eddie on a personal level, or you're friends with him, or you follow him on social media, hit him up and let him know what you guys thought about his time with the show, because trust me, I do, and I appreciate every moment we had with him, man. So I just wanted to put that out there, make it official, so you guys know for sure where Eddie's at. And again, things are great. I love that guy like a brother. We're still very close, and we will continue to be close, and he will continue to be a part of the Spoken umbrella as a whole for forever, man. And I appreciate you guys understanding how this goes. But in the meantime, like I said, thank you guys so much, man, for this show. This was a blast. Hearing from you guys, being as interactive as you guys were today. Keep that going. Keep that going. We need that. It is great for the show. It's great for and let's get some practice rounds in, because when football season comes around, man, we actually have things to actually chew on and talk about that are going on in live time. This is going to be a great thing for us, man, here, and I appreciate all you guys. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell them to subscribe, and tell them to join the chat, because that is what we're here to do from here on out, and we appreciate you guys doing that and getting this thing kickstarted for us. We can't Twidwell break one together on the back end. I am Lance Twidwell. The Spoken episode 222, man.
Yeah,
We're at so many different numbers now. I'm like losing track.
2022.
Yeah, 200,222. But for episode 222, man, of the Spoken podcast, done, finished, and finito. And until we're back here in 1 week's time for episode 223, we out of this bitch.
Later.